Welcome back, Flyers Nitty fans, to Getting Gritty With It with your host, Yariv. Wolok, my partner in crime, as always, Vasili Gianarakos. Vasili, what's going on, brother?
Doing good, Yariv. Obviously, the Flyers are 3-0 in the post-John Tortorella era, so it's an interesting space for the team
Sure.
to be in right now. I would say, like, if we're looking at the Flyers in the standings and just where they're at, the playoffs are a distant, hope away. They're not anywhere close. Obviously, it's all about looking to the future and what's coming up here in the draft. So I think it's a perfect episode for us to just get Steve on, get his insight about the draft here. So I'm doing well. I'm excited for the episode ahead. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man, and yeah, good lead up to our guest, and obviously we gave people a heads up that he was coming and the date and everything. Welcome back to the show, Steve Kournianos, our draft analyst and the draft analyst. How you doing, buddy?
Outstanding. It was busy,
Yeah,
so a lot to talk about. It's
yeah.
going to be a big information dump.
Okay, great. Yeah. So for those wondering, today's episode is going to be primarily focused on Flyers prospects. We'll do a little bit of draft talk at the end. We will have another episode when we have a better idea of when the Flyers actually are picking. We're going to do a full draft preview with Steve, and then we'll do a post-draft episode as well. So get ready for that. We're going to ramp up. Steve's going to be, I'm sure, incredibly busy with draft stuff. So we're gonna schedule with him ahead of
No,
time.
I'm ahead of schedule, man.
Oh yeah.
I'm way ahead of. Yeah, I'm looking at some beach time in early June, unlike
Okay.
previous years.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah,
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Good to hear, man. Yeah, take your vacation while you got them.
yeah.
All right, yeah, before we get started, let me just remind everybody, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications to get notified when we release these episodes because we do them kind of on random dates. And also, for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes and give us a rating and a follow there as well if you can. And also a shout out to our sponsors, Jim Steaks at 4th and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's at 4th and South. And also, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment needs. They will help you facilitate the process between you and your insurance company and make sure you get the best claim possible with the least headaches available. Again, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. And also want to give a brief shout out to our partner, SportsSpider.com. Guys, if you're tired of searching multiple websites for sports news, SportsSpider.com has you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, and podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite teams. If you want to stay as up to date on our Philadelphia Flyers or the NHL in general, hit the link in the description and check out SportsSpider.com. They are our partners. They aggregate content from all over the internet, and our stuff is pinned at the top when we release it, so make sure to check out SportsSpider.com. All right, let's get into it. So again, we're going to do Flyers news, then we're going to do a big chunk of Flyers prospects. We're going to go through each league, and then we'll talk a little bit about RFA stuff, and then end with the draft. So again, big news. Vasili already alluded to it earlier. John Tortorella has officially been fired. We did a show before he got fired. But Vasili was a little more like, this is not going to happen. I thought there's no way he's getting removed during the season, but I was wrong. Vasili, being in the locker room recently, too, just felt the vibes, let's be honest. And so, yeah, John Tortorella has been fired. There have been kind of a lot of speculation as to why that has happened, but the biggest takeaway has been Danny Briere just kind of saying, hey, it's been a lot to manage, essentially, and that he's kind of been dealing with Tortorella in the background, and then maybe the situation with Cam York, which there have been kind of more information has come up recently about that, especially as of today, that there's additional tension there, and it seems like John Tortorella kind of lost favor within the leadership as well. It's been kind of crazy. I really liked John Tortorella as a coach, but from everything that I'm hearing and also just understanding that coaches have a very short lifespan in the NHL, and I would say the average one maybe 2 at most 3 years. If you're in it, if you're in a position for 5+ years, that's like very good. So John Tortorella tenure has ended. Brad Shaw is now the head coach, at least for these remaining 9 games as an interim. We can talk about replacements as well, but just initial thoughts since, Steve, you haven't been on here. We'll go to you first. What are your thoughts about Tortorella getting the axe and with only 9 games left in the season as well?
Well, I mean, the circumstances shouldn't be surprising, right? Teams losing tends to breed dysfunction.
Yeah.
And dysfunction tends to cost people jobs. So, they always say you can't fire the players, right? You can only trade so many. Who knows if Torts was involved? I mean, maybe you guys know. I didn't know if he was involved in the Frost Farabee trade. That was kind of like a little unexpected.
Yeah.
So maybe there was some private discussions there, like I hate this guy, get me out of here, or it was just a situation where the team itself felt like, you know what, like we feel like we're pretty good, we feel like we can compete to an extent because the record says otherwise, but there was like a new voice needed. So he's always had targets. Well, no matter where he's coached, he's always had at least one player that he's targeted, and he rides them, right? And some might call it tough love, but again, in this day and age, is that really a proper like leadership practice to divide and conquer, or like play favorites, or like single out, whatever? Because at the end of the day, you could have those conversations privately, right? But if you do it in front of like other people, or if there's the sense that this player is incompetent, is failing, and they think that because the coach is always saying he's failing or he's making a mistake. And again, I don't know what the extent of it was, but if that's going on, that you can't have that. It's even if you're in a rebuild phase, you definitely need positivity. Now, the flip side to that is there wasn't a whole lot of positivity when he showed up. And he helped stabilize a situation. And what did I say? We said it. What's the biggest problem with the Flyers, the Vigneault Flyers? They're too easy to play against, right? The 9-goal, the blowout losses, and you can't have that. And then even the following year, where they weren't coming back, they had no comeback wins. Like they once they were down in the first period, the game was pretty much over. So Torts fixed that, and within 2 seasons, he had him on the brink of the postseason. And you know how I feel about that. I feel like if you are that close, I know you have a rebuild. I'm not saying go out and take on salary but it wouldn't hurt to spend. If you look at the price being paid, 3rd and 5th rounders for a backup goalie, a 2nd and a 4th for a top 4 defenseman, that's not expensive. And so they didn't do that last year. I disagreed with that, but they said, hey, we got to, we have this plan. And so I thought that everything was heading in the right direction. And oh, by the way, you're getting Michkov, and that's going to add a layer of excitement. The only big issue with the Flyers was twofold. Well, 2 issues was the skill disparity and the power play, right? Well, 3, the goaltending, because of Carter Hart. So we talked about this in the preseason conversations we had. And again, like right around the trade deadline, there were the Flyers with their horrible power play and their horrible goaltending right there in the mix for a playoff spot. And the ownership, or not the ownership, the front office decided not again. Nope. We're gonna finally get rid of Lawton. We're gonna make our moves. And so I think Tortorella probably was just getting frustrated with that. Like, I'm pretty sure he went to them and said, look at our goaltending. You keep selling off my guys that contribute. We have, and again, I said the numbers say there's a skill disparity. Look at the Flyers' 1-loss record against non-playoff teams. It's several games above 500. And then look at their 1-loss record against the playoff teams, current playoff teams. It's horrible. So that is a skill disparity. Those teams that they're losing to are buying. They're buying at the deadline. They're signing big free agents. It's not that they're all built through the draft. Those teams are all in. And if you look at the standings, there's about a dozen teams, right? 14 teams that are all in. They think that they're legit cup contenders. So I think that might have been part of Torts' frustration. He takes it out on the players. I think the one thing I would be careful about, if you try the nice guy approach and you try to go to the college route to get a David Carl, the Flyers tried that already with Hackstall. That is no guarantee that a college coach, David Quinn with the Rangers, is another one. where they a successful college coach. Oh, he's perfect for the rebuild because he works with young guys. Yeah, you got to win games though. So I think it's the right move because they weren't committed to winning anyway. If you were going to the playoffs, you want Torts and his experience there. So what do they do moving forward? I don't know. To close it all up, though, and I'm not a Torts apologist, but I'm going to be honest with you. Like whether it's John Cooper, Scotty Bowman, this flyer roster isn't going to do anything. So
Yeah,
he's
that's
getting
pretty fair.
paid. You know, for all we know, Torts is like, I'm done. I'm going to get
He's getting
myself
paid.
fired.
He's getting paid. I mean, next season
And he's getting
after all
paid.
this, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, at least for the Flyers and everything that happened here, I think it's just a strange situation, right? Like to see a coach for me get let go with 9 games left, that pretty much points out that there was a lot of dysfunction happening behind the scenes, and it was just an untenable situation. Like we obviously found out, with Cam York getting benched, and there was a disagreement between the two in an altercation. That was a big part of it. Danny Briere in his press conference mentioned that was one aspect to it. Another aspect was just him in certain situations behind the scenes there being disagreements between even him and Tortorella. So obviously if the GM himself is disagreeing with the coach over certain things, certain roster moves, potentially, we don't really know what the conversations are, what they're disagreeing about. Perhaps maybe the approach, like you said, Steve, what's happening at the trade deadline, like who really knows? We know how competitive John Tortorella is. So I just think when you have something like that, and obviously Briere and Jones have a certain vision of where they want to go, and they want to strip back some of this team right now to look towards the future, it seems like this isn't really a fit for a coach like Tortorella who's looking to be competitive. He comes out and kind of says as much in the post game, right, against the Leafs, and it was pretty surprising being there, actually hearing him say that in person, and like getting to ask him those, like not the question that essentially he said that got him fired, but the one before, and to kind of see him say that, he almost looked defeated. Just being there, to be honest, he looked frustrated, and you could sense the vibe in the locker room was very frustrating from the players' point of view. Like for me, I look at it and think about Sean Couturier getting scratched last season. Like you scratch your captain almost a month after naming him the captain. Did that, create some sort of dysfunction potentially in the locker room that was hard for players to get over? And did that spill into this season? Because we saw what happened after that to the Flyers, right? They totally collapsed down the stretch, did not make the playoffs. We obviously look at the goaltending and saying that, that was a big factor with Carter Hart, but I wonder if some of that spills into their play and they kind of continue that this season where they can't really get back on track to where they were potentially. So at least for Tortorella, I think just where the Flyers were, it made sense for them to move on from him. It seems like the players really were having a lot of disputes potentially with him behind the scenes. We obviously see York, like I mentioned. Anthony DeMarco, who from Daily Faceoff, mentioned in his article today actually, and said that one of source that he talked to with the Flyers stated York became Tort's whipping boy, essentially, like you stated, Steve. And it is interesting to note that you have Morgan Frost get traded away, and he was notorious for being Tort's whipping boy. And as soon as he moves on, you kind of see York become that type of player for him. And I wonder if the Flyers look at what was happening there and they just said, hey, like York hasn't had a great season. We see what Tortorella is doing and what's happening. We don't want to lower his value even more. So let's just get rid of the situation altogether and eliminate the problem by getting rid of Tortorella. So I just think looking at that situation, maybe seeing what's happening with York, they didn't want to potentially ruin the relationship between the player and the organization. They obviously are trying to re-sign him. So I think that's probably top of mind for them versus trying to mend a fence with a Tortorella who had a 1-year deal left on his contract, was kind of going to be a lame duck coach anyways going ahead here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think between both of you, that's pretty much it. I think it's a combination of everything you said too, Steve, just with your assumptions, because I know you're not like watching this as closely as we are, but the trading the Frost and Farabee surprised me a little bit. Frost, however, didn't, because I was just looking at his contract and I'm like, he's going to want more money. We're not going to want to give him that money. And it seems like that move was primarily in the way Danny Briere has been operating. And Vasili and I have been talking about this for a while, is we just track their financials through Puckpedia. And if you look at their financials, you can include Tortorella in that too, is that they have this like plan of 26, 27 being this like huge transition year for them. But we saw also in the financials that this offseason was the beginning of that, where things loosen up, and it seemed like they wanted to speed that up a little bit with Farabee and Frost leaving, that essentially gives them an extra like $9 million to play with, which does loosen them up even more. And with the amount of young players they have incoming, they probably want something. They want like a big banger. They want like, you talk about a talent difference. They're looking for something of higher tier than both of those players. And the free agent market look probably starts now. But going to Tortorella, I think, and again, people know I'm a fan of Tortorella. So seeing all this, but I'm also very blunt with it. Like if you are losing the room and I'm watching a guy throw players under the bus publicly, which he did do for York, even way earlier, where he's like, "Oh, I don't even know if he's an NHL defenseman. I don't even, he did it to Jacob Peltier. I don't know what value." It's like when I start seeing that stuff, I'm like, none of that is your call. Your call is to get the most out of the players you have. So if he stops doing that and he starts going, "Well, I want to win. I want to," okay, but that's not your job. Your job is to be the lead. He talks about being a leader of men. A leader takes everything he has and pushes them forward, regardless of what you have. So when I start seeing that, I'm like, okay, all of this becomes justifiable. And then we did have the story that came out from Spittin' Chicklets, and it's not really like a journalism story, I don't think, but they were just kind of talking to Keith Yandel and saying that there's like a rumor, and I'll keep it as just a rumor for now because we don't really know, that Tortorella kind of, I guess, publicly said to York that he was going to bury him if he re-signs here, like bury him in the organization.
So I can read the quote. So basically, Yandel says, "I heard he got personal with Yorkie. Yorkie was taking it for a while, but then Torch got personal with him, and York unloaded on him." Whitney says Torch was telling him, "If you resign here, I will bury you." It was getting over the line. I mean, perhaps he said that. We really don't know. I feel like Tortorella's mantra, what he's trying to do, he's trying to challenge a player because he's trying to bring the best out of them. So that's what he knows how to do. He's trying to create a confrontation. Hopefully York rises up against him and does better potentially, but maybe it was getting to a point where that just wasn't going to happen. I just think about it too. Like we talk about all of this with Tortorella, and you look at like the situation at hand. Like I would say, like the losing in general, right? Coupled with this all, I think that's the main thing. You lost 11 out of 12 games heading into him being fired. So any coach losing in a streak like that is going to be at jeopardy of losing their job, right? And that just is what it is.
Yeah, and Steve brought it up, but like that's where the dysfunction comes out. And people should be aware when all these stories come out, this happens every time. Every single time a GM or a coach is fired, all of the dirty laundry comes out. So take all of it with a grain of salt because this tends to happen to everybody who gets fired. So like I don't think it's very fair to Tortorella to start challenging.
I will say too, for Torts, like we obviously went over all the bad things and the reasons why he did get fired. There's a lot of really good things that he did for this team, right? So I mean, even if you look at Cam York, last season he played a really great season under Tortorella. Look at Bobby Brink and how he's progressed this season, even in Noah Cates. Matvei Michkov having a great rookie season under Tortorella, even though he, gets benched and they have some disputes of their own.
Sanheim.
So there's a lot of positives to take away, I would say, too. And the main thing probably is just the team having some sort of structure to play with. Like we saw that team under Alain Vigneault, like this team now, though they aren't good, they're not losing games 9-0 to teams. So
yeah, 100%. So let me ask you this, Steve. So this is the one thing when I was talking about Tortorella that worried me the most. And Vasili alluded to it with the benching, but I never noticed a connection between Sean Couturier, who we knew was going to be the captain. Like I've been saying it since the day Giroux left that Sean Couturier was going to be the next captain. It was obvious to me who the leader in the room was. He was like the de facto captain when Giroux was here. He was the clear-cut number 2 guy. And I never felt that Couturier was the voice of Tortorella in the room. And I go back to times like when Ken Hitchcock coached the Flyers and Keith Primeau was the captain. Primeau echoed what Ken Hitchcock said to the team. He was like the liaison between the two parties.
That's a perfect scenario. It's not always it's not the rule. It briefs like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But
when lucky if you do.
When Primeau left because of his injury, Ken Hitchcock was gone like immediately after that. And I wonder, like, not having the coaches back, like Sean Couturier, not being like, guys, like, understand why he's doing what he's doing, understand why he's saying what he's saying. And, we hear stuff like, oh, I don't know why I was benched from Couturier, right? And stuff like that. I feel like that maybe is Tortorella's biggest failure is not having the captain, like you said, an idealistic scenario, but I think very important to understand this guy represents your locker room and you better be very tight with him and you better have the same vision to some degree, or at least have him buy into your vision. And I never really felt that with Couturier. I always felt like he was just along for the ride, like everybody
I mean, when
else.
you scratch your captain, it's probably hard to build that relationship.
In fairness,
with
he
them,
scratched like almost everybody on this team. So
that's true. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. What do you think about that, Steve? Like that?
I mean, I think that part of being a professional is to bridge the gap between the coaching staff and the players, regardless, whether you like them or not, whether you respect them or not, right? So, like, if you're a veteran, you've had, at this point, a guy like Couturier has probably had like 15, 20 coaches, right?
Yeah.
And that's just beginning like from his time in, let's say, junior hockey.
Yeah.
Or like one every couple of years, right? Then the AHL. I don't know if he went to the AHL, but like just in general, the Flyers have had a lot of coaches. So
they have.
he's seen it all, right? He's played internationally, so he's had different coaches in that level. So by that point, he should have definitely known that this is the kind of guy Tortorella is going to be. When Tortorella was messing with him last year, remember there's a guy that had injury issues. We just wanted him to play, right? We were just hoping he could be healthy because he's very expensive and he's getting up there in age. And there was a point where he was basically like the team MVP. Where just everything that he did defensively, Selke caliber play, he was scoring. So, he could have, one thing Couturier could have done is just basically made believe like he, and still convey the message, but maybe privately with maybe his family or his closest friends and be like, he's making my job, like Torts being Torts is making my life friggin' hell. He's making it really hard for me. The guys are getting upset. Usually what happens is the captain has the immediate grasp of the locker room, right? Not the coach, not the GM. The captain should know everything about what's going on for each player. That's why they get named captain. It's part of the responsibility. You don't get paid more, but when you put that C on, you have to basically know every player, know their strengths and weaknesses, know their families, know like that's what I think a good captain would do.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that Tortorella created an environment to the point where there was just no fixing it. There wasn't any way for, and it goes back to what you were saying, is like, if you don't have the captain on your side, you're going to lose. You're going to lose if the captain, especially if the captain is performing well and has the respect of the room. So look at the Trouba situation with the Rangers, right? The issue though with him was he was terrible, right? So he might have been a great leader, a great friend, and but he was a terrible defenseman. I'm sorry, he was a terrible defenseman. Like he cost them legit. Like he might have cost them a cup. How he played. So the players, they'll be like, oh, we all make mistakes. We don't care. We still love you. But the fans are like, get rid of him. And so there was an issue between, the GM wanting to get rid of him because he wasn't good. And the players are like, no, we love him. So I think, that's a situation. That's not like the Couturier situation. But, when you have this time the coach and the player, the captain having issues, it was doomed to fail.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Again, I think we even said this, that Torts was just there. Really, he was hired to just give them an idea of how hard work and extra effort can bear positive results, right? That you not only will you be in great shape, not only will you have a good reputation around the league, that people will see you hardworking, but you'll have a bond. And that's big. Torts is big on the whole bond thing, like creating a bond. But it obviously doesn't include liking him. So, I just think that when he did the Couturier thing in the beginning, you might have been like, light a fire under his ass, and he'll be a better player for it. But you're like,
at the end, really, it's he almost dug his own
really
grave.
Necessary. So he's like. His style, I don't think it's conducive anymore. I really don't.
Not like, the length he stays, right? Like I don't think you can like have a shelf life over 3 or 4 years just the way he's kind of like approaching these relationships in the locker room with certain players, right? So
unless you have a veteran team that is so sick of losing,
yeah,
like they're like the Maple Leafs, right? Like they brought in now a really tough coach. Not that Keefe wasn't tough, but like Berube does not mess around.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what the results are. But like so I could see that, like, what, Torts has won a cup before. He's been to the conference finals with multiple teams. He's fixed problems everywhere he's gone, right? Usually where he goes, you get the immediate fix, but not with young guys. With young guys, like there's a point where, maybe like 15 years from now when Michkov and Tippett are having beers, like, hey, remember Torts? Yeah, but you know what? He really taught us a lot. Maybe. But for right now, no. It was I think he wanted to get, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think he wanted to get fired. He's a smart guy. He's media savvy. He knows exactly what he's doing. To say those comments, I'm not going to change how I coach.
It was surprising. Yeah, it was surprising to hear that.
Yeah. I think he wanted out.
I think he coaches again, Steve, in the NHL.
Well, no, I don't think unless he feels like he has something to prove. But my theory is that he got tired of not getting players. He was probably banging on the table for freaking help.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way an NHL coach is like, I'm fine with 3 inexperienced goalies and they're all from Europe.
I doubt it.
Like, he has no. So I think he got tired of it. And Briere and Jones are like, listen, we hired you. We told you this is how it was going to be. And he's like, well, I got a contract. And so he clearly hates losing. And they were
so close, right? They were so close last season to making it to the playoffs. So I just think that this season he probably expected them to be closer than them falling off. That frustration sets in. He almost fired himself, like you said, right? Just basically those comments. You can't be a coach going out there and saying that without having some sort of repercussions, because the players are going to hear that and they're going to think like, oh, like, you don't want to, you're not interested in coaching a team like this. Like, what are the players going to think about when they hear a comment like that? So it was the beginning of the end, essentially, after those comments, right?
And it's also a win-win situation from the PR standpoint for the team, in that if you get rid of him and the team starts winning, you're like, oh, look, we it had to be done. If you get rid of him and the team stinks, you're just like, well, we stink. We had to make a change. So it's not like I don't see the fan base really up in arms over this one. I think that everybody was like, you know what? We liked him in the beginning. It added some zest to the press conferences, and definitely saw an improvement. But again, at the end of the day, hey, if I'm going to fire Torts for one reason, the power play never got fixed.
Yeah.
It never got fixed. And so I'd like to think the coach with 30 plus years experience is like, well, I have a little tweaks we can make. Nope, there were no tweaks.
But he also too, like, he wouldn't. The thing that irked me about it is if you asked him about, okay, what are we gonna do to fix the power play? Like, is there frustration or is there anything that we'll do? He sometimes wouldn't even talk about it in the press conference.
No, he would just defend Rocky Thompson. That's it.
And when you've been in the bottom, I mean, last for 3 seasons and then bottom 2 this season, like,
it's historically bad. It's probably one of the worst power play runs in NHL history.
Yes,
definitely.
And it was very inconsistent of Torts, because he talks about accountability. And again, I don't like piling up on Rocky Thompson because he probably is a good coach in other aspects, but to not acknowledge that your power play is not improving, and the only reason it has improved, even the 2 percentage points it's gone up, is because of Michkov.
Yeah.
There literally is no other element that it's improved outside of the fact that Michkov came in and was scoring on the power play. And then
early season power play goals are helping the numbers too.
Even worse, they reduced his role on the power play as the season went on too, which is even crazier in my opinion, when your power play is that bad. And now they've been running 5 forwards on the top power play, which I don't understand either, especially when you have Jamie
throwing darts at the board, basically, at this point. But I mean, this coaching staff, right? Like, none of these guys are gonna remain, in my opinion. I think they're gonna go in a different direction, but we'll obviously see what happens.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, I think an interesting week for the Flyers in terms of what happened with Tortorella. I don't think anybody really expected him to get let go with 9 games left, just because you don't typically see that with a coach.
No, not in a losing season, maybe before playoff run or something. But All right, let's talk about some positive stuff. So Matvei Michkov has been setting at least the Flyers world on fire. He's got 6 points in the last 3 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 11 points in the last 6, I think. Just really been lights out. I don't think it's related to a lot of people are like, oh, it's because Torts is gone. Maybe a little bit of it just because he's getting more ice time, where Shaw's playing him extra. And Tortorella never really saw the need to play him extra. He had a couple times, like people were pretending like Tortorella like neutered Michkov, which I don't think is the case.
No. He's a rookie.
Like right. But but Matvei Michkov has looked exceptional of late. The heavy favorite still by at least like money puck is Lane Hudson. But I mean, Michkov has done everything we thought he would do. If the Flyers had even a decent power play, he'd be on probably a 70-point pace in his rookie year, which is like kind of where Vasili and I had him, was around like 60 to 70.
I thought 60 around there. You get there. Like, I mean, Michkov's just, I think just since the Four Nations, right? Like people saying, oh, it's Tortorella and he's heating up. Like since the Four Nations. Yeah, since the Four Nations break, though, like he's a leader in 5-on-5 points with 21. So that kind of just shows
of
you, right?
all
like,
players,
the league leader, the league leader,
the league leader. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So Michkov's been incredibly impressive. From the outside, as a guy who's been talking him up to us, and obviously we knew that coming in, but we knew it pre-draft. You were talking about him. What do you think about Michkov? Just, I'm sure you've been kind of keeping an eye on him.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, listen, I tweeted out right after I saw, and this is why I made a little bit of a face when you said Lane Hudson facility, is that Yariv, is that last year we had Bedard versus Faber, and Faber was a defenseman. That dude was a top pairing defenseman, shut down 23 plus minutes a game. He was producing points. He had one of the best rookie season
unreal
for a defenseman. I don't Minnesota to make the playoffs, right? But still he was great. Like he was polished, mature. And so I thought, like, without a doubt, any top scoring rookie, if you play him 20 minutes a game, is going to hit 40, 50 points, right? For the most part. But I said Bedard won by a significant margin. I thought it was criminal that Faber did not get more votes because, again, like, who made their team better? The Blackhawks stunk. They were terrible. They were one of the worst teams in the league. Minnesota was a good team, or mediocre, playoff caliber-ish. And that guy was the reason why. I don't know. I know they have Kaprizov and Boldy, but still. So I said, when the results, I tweeted out, I said, Michkov is going to have to score 70 goals to beat out Celebrini. Because I think Celebrini being the first overall pick, he's having, this. But now with Hudson, now we're going to face with, the PHWA is going to be talking out of both sides of their mouths. Because now you have two forwards in Celebrini and Michkov and a goalie in Wolf, but mostly Celebrini and Michkov. What they're doing, really, Michkov in a lesser role. Celebrini is getting a ton of ice time. He's like, the main guy now because all the injuries that San Jose's had. But Michkov is, what he's doing. And again, it also ties not just to scoring, like the feel that he is arguably the best player on the Flyers, right? In his first year, he's the best player on the Flyers. And that if you're a Flyer goalie, now with Lane Hudson, he's been phenomenal, right? His assists are piling up. His defense is, listen, you can't kill the kid for defense because Cale McCarr, like all offensive defensemen are going to give up. They're going to be sloppy with the puck because they handle it so much.
I agree.
So I don't know, because now Montreal is like kind of like Minnesota last year, where they're on the verge of they're a playoff bubble team, but is that as impressive? Now, the thing is, Hudson's numbers are closer to Michkov and Celebrini than Faber's were to Bedard. But I just think, forget the Calder. Like, Michkov has just been the bomb. He's been great. His jersey sale, like everything we talked about. Montreal fans, again, they can't get over the fact, but that this kid is doing it. And then he goes into Montreal. I think, was it in Montreal?
Yeah.
I mean, puts on a show. And so I think the only concern that I would have is a sophomore jinx, right?
Sure.
So he came in, he had a lot to prove. Instantly, he showed that he belonged, right? I don't care about the slumps he's had in the first couple weeks of the season. He was a story in the entire league. He was like a headline guy.
He was locked in. He was really good.
Yeah. Okay. And so so we all know now, like, oh, wait a minute. Those guys that said that he was as good as Bedard, they might have been right. And we weren't hearing that. So I'm happy with that. But now he's still got work to do. He has to be better. He has to keep working. He has to train in the offseason. I think he will, because if he just works hard every offseason, he's a student of the game. You're looking at a potential 40-50 goal scorer, perennial 40-50 goal scorer. I don't think he's that far off of Ovechkin. You've seen the goals he's scoring, the types of goals he's scoring. So, and remember, Ovechkin, he was supposed to be in the league in 04-05, and there was a shutdown. He didn't play because there was a strike. So but when he came into his first year in the league with Crosby, they both had 100 points. I think Ovechkin won the Calder over Crosby, and he had, I think, like 50 goals. So in a way, to me, that was his draft +2. That was his second season post draft. So is it possible that Michkov does what Ovechkin did? I think it's possible, but again, it's going to require a lot for a lot to happen.
Yeah.
But to close it on Michkov, play him freaking 20 minutes a game. Play him. The teammate will be fine. Play him, unbridle him, let him do whatever the hell he wants. You're rebuilding. Let him do whatever the hell he wants.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's something that Tortorella would not have done till the very end, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it wasn't until recently that even Tortorella started putting Couturier, Michkov, and Konechny together, even playing Konechny with Michkov.
I've been saying it for a while.
And you definitely have. And we look at the beginning of the season when the team was doing its best, those three were together. And I think if you just look at the talent of the team and just try to develop Michkov as a player, putting him with the best players, the most talented players on the team, like a Couturier, like a Konechny, that's just going to be the most conducive for his development, right? And I think just this last stretch here with Shaw, we're probably going to see him get played like that, like 20 plus minutes a night. We're seeing him get those heavier minutes, and we're seeing him thrive, right? Obviously, just in the recent stretch with the 11 points in 6 games. Just to touch on the Calder race, interesting stats I have here. So primary points this season, if you look at all three of the guys, Michkov's got 44, Celebrini's got 38, Hudson's got 28. Then even strength points, Michkov's got 43, Hudson with 34, Celebrini with 33. So if you're looking at those stats, he is leading them out, which is important, right? Because primary points, even strength points, sometimes it's harder to get the score in those avenues and things like that. So I thought that was something interesting to bring up. And then another thing too I wanted to mention for Michkov, right, is I mentioned it beforehand, like it isn't just a recent thing with the Tortorella firing. Literally since February 6th, he has 24 points in 21 games. So he's been well over a point per game recently. Like he had a slump going into the Four Nations. We kind of see that, little break rejuvenated him. This is the most hockey he's ever played in his career. So I think we have to factor that into. I
he was hot before the break, though.
No, yeah, he did get hot as well too, but he had a slump before that, obviously, as well.
Yes,
right?
he
like
did.
A lengthy
6 points
period.
in 20 games or something like that.
Yeah, like, so you look at any rookie, there's going to be struggles, but I think the fact that he didn't let those struggles define his season, he came back and is finishing even stronger than almost he started, essentially. Yeah. It's a really good sign for his development. I think just looking at the competitive nature the kid has, next season, I'm interested to see what he could do, right? Like, it's crazy to think he has 58 points. He's going to smash over 60 points, obviously, his rookie season. But the fact that he's, tied for the Flyers lead in goals with 24, I did not expect that.
Huge deal. That's a huge deal. I don't care what level you're at. If you come in as a rookie and you are among the team leaders in a category like goals or points or save percentage, that's a huge deal. So you can't marginalize that. You could break down the numbers all you want. You know what I mean? And you did, Vasili, and they look great. I'm saying if you're trying to say like, well, it's only 25 goals, like
no, that's amazing for a 19-year-old to come in and match a guy like Konechny.
Huge deal.
Match a guy like Konechny who has 24 goals as well this season. He's basically on the same pace as Konechny, who's been the league as a veteran for years, right? So that's pretty crazy to think about where he's starting off. And then you look at that, right? Like where Michkov's starting as a 19-year-old, think about where he potentially could go, right? The sky's the limit, I think, for his potential. So it's going to be really interesting to see how from year to year he progresses here, because to start off with a 60-point season at this rate in the NHL, it's pretty unheard of for most players, right? You're seeing guys, who are superstars hit that 60-point level and above in a rookie year in the NHL at this point, I would say.
Yeah.
And remember, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Well, remember, Kucherov was a freaking second-round pick.
Yeah.
And that guy hit 120. He was a second-round pick.
Most successful Russian player outside of Ovechkin, I think.
He fell in on a team that had a lot of talent, obviously. But, and so, again, I think think about the discourse surrounding Michkov with, getting scratched in Ska. And then what was this year? Oh, Anthony Richard. Oh, he lost his job to Anthony Richard. And oh God.
Yeah,
I'm just
crazy.
glad, I want this to continue for at least 2 more seasons so we could really put it to bed that, for someone like myself, I love the kid, not only because he's a Sagittarius, but because I feel vindicated, because that, what he's done is what, I saw with my own eyes, and I wasn't alone, but the negativity that kid received.
Insane.
They piled up on him in his draft.
The fan base loves him, right? At the end of the day, what's the most important thing besides him? The fans love him. The fans love him, right? They, when a dad is taking his kid to the game, he's like, that's Michkov right there. Watch him play. That's what you want. That's why it's entertainment, isn't it? Isn't this an entertainment business?
Yeah, he's an
I want to be
player.
entertained, right? And there are a lot of draft picks that just do not entertain.
It's crazy to think about the draft, go back to his draft year and all the media that piled up on him, and all the rumors about his character and potentially being bad with teammates. But you look at his competitiveness and how much of a plus that is for a player, right? It's just crazy to
and how
they
the entire team loves him.
Yeah, they could build the bottom line is the Flyers can build around him. They can literally build around him. Now they have that piece in place, and they could say, let's get him a freaking
100%.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing where I think about the I guess the 3 Calder candidates, and I don't want to exclude Wolf. He's obviously in there, but the skaters. When I look at Celebrini and Michkov, I think Lane Hudson is an awesome rookie. I want to make that very clear. This is not me saying he's not been phenomenal.
All top tier. Yeah.
But I don't see him reaching the same level as a Celebrini, who I thought is having an exceptional rookie year, especially if you look at his points per game in general. And then Michkov, who I think would have the exact same points per game if Tortorella 1 unleashed him, or if the Flyers had a decent power play. I think he's a 75-point player in the NHL now as a rookie. I don't see Hudson doing that. The same way where it's Panarin, Bedard, or McDavid, and Ghost, where Ghost, and again, it's not exactly the same, but Ghost is still one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL, but he's nowhere near the impact of a Panarin and a McDavid in the league. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I just look at Lane Hudson. I look at Lane Hudson. I don't see a player that, I see 5 goals. I see a lot of secondary assists, which is understandable, right? Breakout passes. I don't want to completely.
He's really explosive. He's dynamic, though.
He's very dynamic.
He's a lot of fun to watch.
Right. So, and that's why I don't want to say he's not a great rookie, but I just see these guys could be 1 and 2 in the league.
Yeah.
In production. And I don't know if, Lane Hudson.
You can't look at the Calder that way. You got to base it off of this season.
You're right.
And this season only. Right. So I think my concern with Hudson, more so than Michkov and Celebrini, obviously, is he's a smaller defenseman.
Right.
And like we saw with Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes is smaller too, but he really bulked up. He had a lot of muscle.
And Hudson might do that too.
Well, yeah, is that the opposition is going to target you, especially in the playoffs. They're going to target you physically. The Flyers did it to Brian Leetch. It made me so mad in 95 and 97. My boyhood hero getting crushed by freaking Trent Klatt and Sean Podine. They were drilling him.
Well,
that's
era.
what.
But
that's what. But still, no. I mean, you're seeing in the play McCarr.
Yeah,
they're targeted. So you wonder, if teams are going to also take not offense, but I don't want this Hudson guy dipsy doodling and spinning and twirling on me.
Oh,
he's going to posterize me. I got something for his ass. And so, you got to worry about that. But for this particular season, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I love Michkov. I Dustin Wolf, a California kid. I love that. He was a 7th round pick. I was like,
he's been lights out for Calgary. So
that kid never lost. He never lost in Everett. He never lost in Stockton. He never loses. His career winning percentage is like 800. So it's going to be really close. I think it's really close.
I think if Montreal makes the playoffs, I think if they make the playoffs and Hudson has a big part in that might be a big push to his chances, but we'll see.
And as it should be,
Michkov has to. If Michkov maintains this streak,
I agree.
So the very end, the thing is that the writers might just say is like, well, Celebrini has the higher per game. I think if numbers.
Michkov flirts with 30 goals, like if he gets to he has 24 right now, if he gets close to 29 or 30, that'd be hard to deny it, right?
Put it this way, gun to your head. Ask any hockey fan right now, gun to your head. Not Montreal fans, not Flyers fans, not Sharks fans. Gun to your head. Which player are you taking? I think it's between Celebrini and Michkov.
That's kind of my point.
And then you say, all right, well, now,
center.
And listen, the PHWA, I've had a lot of issues with them with the way they voted. But this is a year where they're going to really have to dig deep. They could always say, oh, my gut tells me, or the eye test. I watched 5 games of each, and this is what I saw. But like, you really got to get into if I was voting, I would audit every freaking point first. I'd audit every point, every goal, every assist. What was the score? What was the strength
primary
on the ice?
Assist or not?
Was the assist a dime? Was it a simple handoff? Was the goal a freaking like a flub shot? Audit everything, and then watch like maybe 10 games worth of his shifts and say, okay, well, against the toughest opponents, the toughest teams in the league, like the Vegases and the Colorados and the Washington this year. But you see what I'm saying?
And that's where Michkov has excelled, honestly.
That's how I would do it. I can't just look at raw stats and be like, oh, him.
Right.
I think I really take it seriously, but that's just me.
Pure star power, I give Celebrini and Michkov the edge. I actually, my gut tells me Celebrini wins.
Yeah, you gotta think about Canadian. I think about Canadian hockey media just being the number 1 overall pick. You add those biases.
He's been really good too, though. That's the thing. Yeah. Is like
he's well deserving of it.
He's been basically like a number 1 center, and he's
well deserving of it.
And he's
actually doing what we thought Bedard would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Bedard had the points were great, but Bedard had to this day he still has. Looks like overmatched at times. There's a lot of like. And that'll get fixed. I'm not worried about Bedard, but Celebrini came in the size. It's an issue where for people that argue for size, there's your example right there.
Size. I've been saying on this podcast for years that size matters because it was driving me nuts that people are like, oh, size doesn't matter in the end. I was like, you're kidding me. Size absolutely matters. Strength matters. Physicality matters. It's like it's not the same.
IQ matters too, though. Remember that.
Sure,
IQ matters too.
But no, 100%. But I don't decrease the value of size and physicality because there's no more hooking. Right, like you level somebody
especially in the playoffs, right?
Well, you have even a guy like Tage Thompson who's got like that physique, like that's part of his success is just being massive and skilled, right? It's like if you have a combination of those things, you're unstoppable. That's why everybody says Eric Lindros in today's game would be like insane. Right, because nobody, you put Tom Wilson. Actually,
you couldn't hook him. You couldn't hook. I mean, and think about when they tried to hook him in open ice and they'd fall.
Right,
that was some of the funniest things that you'd see is like people try to hook him from behind. I think
you just barrel.
Didn't Messier try to? If I recall correctly, the nail in the coffin in one of the playoff games between the Flyers and the Rangers, Lindros, and it was a great game, but Lindros was skating. Like clear path to the net for an empty net goal, and Messier was like desperately trying to slow him down and hook him, and it was like kind of like a metaphor for like the pass. I think the media was like it's a passing of the torch,
because, or taking of the torch.
yeah. So I agree with that. Where Lindros would definitely, but yeah, I think there could be a balance. But the thing about Celebrini is he's already, and his dad's like this world-class trainer. You know what I mean? Like he's like the head trainer for the. Was it like
you got an advantage with that for sure? So.
Yeah, so he has that advantage. But Michkov is also a freaking gym rat. He's a fiend, and he's got his calves are like the size of goalie pads.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't know. We'll see. But I think as an outside observer, it's good for hockey to have every position represented, right? You have a center, a wing, a defenseman, and a goalie.
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah.
And they're all running
for a Calder.
Yeah, and they're all like slated to be top of their, top 5, top 10 guys in their position. So,
and 2 of them weren't first round picks,
which is even cooler. And that's exactly what we were talking about earlier, is how often that actually happens, that people ignore that. They want the guarantee of which understandably so, of the top 2, top 3 picks in the draft, but that's not usually how the draft works out. So let's talk about prospects. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes of why people are listening. So we're gonna go through each league. We kind of went through the names. So it's gonna be mostly Steve talking right now, obviously, but that makes sense. So we're gonna start off with the OHL guys, then we're gonna go to the Q, then the WHL, then the NCAA, then the US Hockey League, then Finland, Sweden, and then end in Russia. So top prospects peppered all throughout here. So not just top heavy with the beginning. But let's start with the OHL. So the big names, we can do them both at the same time, but Denver Barkey and Oliver Bonk, we can do them at the same time because they're on the same team. But they're in the playoffs right now, and I know Barkey just had a 5-point night the other night. So Steve, what can you tell us about Barkey?
Well, I mean, it's Memorial Cup or bust for London. That's the way that they lost last year to Saginaw.
Twice in a row they lost, right?
Yeah, 2 years in a row in the Memorial, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that Barkey is, and with London they always load up. They have great goaltending. They have really great goaltending. So that definitely helps the skaters like Dickinson and all these guys that are Hugh Cowan. These guys have been there for a while. They know each other like it's Dale Hunter's guys. And you probably ask him off the record, like, is this one of the best teams you've ever coached? And he'd probably say yes, because they just they offer you so much in every area. So Barkey, we know, like top line, PK, power play, energy, hustle on the forecheck, everything. What I like the most about him, though, and I'm not just going to say this because I just look at stats, because I've watched him plenty. London has Brustovic and some other guys. The numbers haven't leveled off, right? Now, Bonk, it's a different story, but with him, you got to respect the fact that his defense has not regressed. The scoring isn't where it was. Dickinson is taking a gazillion shots a game, too, so that's part of it. I don't think it's bad that Bonk is maybe being more reserved this year. He's hit a lot of posts, too, so I don't know if that matters. Like the games I've watched, he's always – so, but with Barkey, you're getting – exactly what he did a year ago. I don't think it would be fair to say, well, he has to score even more, although he might. I don't know if his numbers actually went up. His
point per game was like a 164.
It actually went up. It went up from 159 to 164.
Yep.
So, but again, we really shouldn't even be talking about stats. If I'm a Flyers play development staff, if I'm a Flyers scout, or if I'm Briere or Jones or Shaw, whomever, I am watching how they perform in the playoffs, because this is really all that matters. They slice through the regular season like a knife, like a hot knife through butter. So the good news is, really, the best news is they're finally done with the junior hockey. That they're all going to, and you're not going to see them in the AHL playoffs. If Lehigh Valley did Lehigh Valley?
We're about to make it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. They beat Laval. They beat Laval the other night? I saw that.
They did.
All right, so with Lehigh Valley in the playoffs, if they take it all the way to the finals, then maybe if London gets upset, you might see those guys join Lehigh Valley. But I'm really looking at them in the OHL playoffs. They might face, like, I'm watching Erie Saginaw, and I'm watching Oshawa and Brampton, right? Because that's what Misa and Martona playing in respectively. And the OHL, I was criticizing it for not being physical. These are nasty, nasty series. And I was about to tweet it out, but I didn't, because I wanted to focus on the game, was that this is like AHL playoff hockey. This is like almost like NHL playoff hockey. the level of physicality, the shit talking, the woodwork. The referees are letting them play. It's great. And so, well, to an extent. So I think again, I would look at forget about stats. Forget about stats with Bonk and Barkey. You want to see how well they do in this postseason run, because again, if London does not win the Memorial Cup, this season is a failure. We have to say that. We're sports fans. That's how sports works. Where, you were there. You've been killing everybody. You're number one in the CHL rankings every week for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win the Memorial Cup. If you don't, then, you can look at, well, why did it happen? What happened with Barkey? What was Barkey's role in it? What was Bonk's role in it? But again, at the end of the day, it's just exciting for fans. I think we're not going to really know what they can do NHL projection wise if they're going to live up to them until they go to the AHL.
So actually, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. So I think the most interesting thing for the people listening to this podcast, while the tournament, Memorial Cup, and all that is cool, people are wondering what kind of impact they're going to have next year. How do you see their dark horse candidacy to make the NHL where they are right now? I think Vasili and I are pretty much aligned on this, that both of them are going to need AHL time, but I'm just wondering, kind of, how do you see it? Do you see any chance of even a guy like Barkey, who's
no,
maybe
not
coming in
Barkey? The reason why is it's not a slight on him. They have guys of his type already in the system.
Yep,
guys that have been what's the kid Avon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not. Remember, Avon was a good scorer in junior. So Gendron is another guy too.
Yeah, who's having a great season.
Yeah, so you have, even Zayd Wisdom. They have a bunch of guys who've paid their dues, and I think play development types will tell you that they think it'll be detrimental if you just even if now Barkey's going to have to, if he comes in and blows the doors out of everybody in camp, the law of averages says that there's going to be 1 or 2 flyer wing prospects who will also have equally good camps. So then you have to look at seniority. Is it their turn? You have to look at contracts. So I think the Flyers will approach Barkey as, dude, you need to learn about us. You've been in London, we're doing Dale Hunter type things. Now you got to come to Lehigh Valley and do, Ian LePerrier type things. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I think LePerrier is going to like Barkey.
Yeah,
I think Bonk will have to play a little bit meaner. He can, but maybe like no matter how steady he is, I could see LePerrier being like, LePerrier is the kind of guy that would he does what Sheldon Keefe did with Kovacevic. Where he's like, it's like, what do you think about you? Oh, he's got to play better. LePerrier, again, I'm not knocking the guy too much, but that might be a consideration too with how Briere and Jones discuss these players coming into Lehigh Valley with LePerrier, because you don't want him to crush their souls early on. So I think Bonk being a right shot, steady Eddie, plain Jane, maybe because he could simplify his game to be like, hey, if you just want to tighten up in the defensive zone, I could be that guy for you. But he's never faced the speed of the AHL. The AHL speed is legit. It is legit. It's a fast, hard-hitting league, and you make that jump to the NHL. I mean, look at Luchenko in the first 9 games this year. You could tell, he had a good camp.
It's a different pace of play in these leagues, right? Especially when you're a young player. When you're a young player and it's the first time you've actually made that jump, I think you're totally spot on, right? You look at where London's been the last 3 seasons, Memorial Cup, they have not won. I think, like you said, to look at Barkey and Bonk, and for them in their season, them winning that would be the ultimate goal, obviously.
For them too.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting
to experience it.
Yeah. I don't have any disagreements there. My money is that both of them play practically the entire season in the AHL next year, unless they prove otherwise.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I mean, first of all, the first round. Well, Bonk's a first round pick. You don't want to send, Barkey to Reading, and you want him there. So if you look at Lehigh Valley's lineup, there's a lot of older guys there that it's I think 75% of the top 15 scorers are, minor league types. Yeah. And so I don't know what the contract status is for a lot of those guys, but I think, Briere and Jones will have that roadmap or that like depth chart in their offices and say, okay, like, because I think about Barkey and Bonkers, they'll play well enough to deserve it. They're not going to just get it because they put up good junior stats. You know what I mean?
No, they have to do it. So let me ask you this, actually, because this has been also interesting to me. So Barkey's been playing wing primarily, right? But he has a history of playing center, and the Flyers in preseason used him as a center. Now, maybe that's just because they didn't have anybody really. They don't have many center prospects.
I think it was just an audition.
Well, that's what I
like him as a wing.
Okay.
I like him as a wing. He's that F1 first in on the forecheck. He can make plays off the forecheck. Like that the skill component with Barkey is real. So, like, is he a natural center? You'd have to ask him. I'd have to go back to his, GTHL days. But the effectiveness that he has as a winger, because he's a dual threat. Yeah. He's defensively responsible. He's pesky. He's energetic. He could be like a Marchand. Best case scenario.
He reminds me of Konechny in a lot of ways. I don't know if he's going to be as good, but he seems to have a very similar skill set.
Yeah, high motor guy. Yeah. So I don't think it's good to have a center who's a high motor guy. Center's got a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
not just whereas the wings, you just say freaking release them like Rottweilers, and they could do damage for you. And it's even plussed up when they have skill, which Barkey has plenty of.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. So Jet Luchenko, he's outside of Zavragin, probably the prized piece in the Flyers prospect pool at the moment. He has started with the Phantoms. He's played 2 games so far. First game he put up no points. Second game he had his first I saw point. Beautiful nice setup. Entry. Yeah, very nice entry, very nice assist. Probably is going to take a little bit, but we were talking about if the Flyers would call him up to the NHL level. But it seems like they don't want to burn those trial games in case he's not ready next year. They can still send him back even if he starts in the NHL again. But it looks like, especially from what Briere was saying, is that he is being penciled in to next year's roster at the NHL level. But what can you tell us about Luchenko's junior season?
Well, yeah, Guelph wasn't good. No. And so I think he definitely didn't have a whole lot to work with. They sold players, you know what I mean? So there was like a lot of younger players playing.
The guy they sold got arrested, didn't he? What's his name?
Oh, Cam Allen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was supposed to be a top 10 pick a while back, but like the Guelph at one point had a real nice core to build off of, and it never really materialized. And so now in this year, I think they're one of the worst teams in the OHL.
Yeah.
So you have to add that context to it. He's fine. He's the kind of guy that he could have any line mate. He could have any defense pairing behind them. Like he knows he's a very confident center, right? He doesn't need people to tell him what to do, which is why the World Junior stuff was surprising. I thought like he did so well not so well, but he looked really comfortable at the summer showcase that I thought Canada might want to give him more, and they just kept on relying on frickin' Richie.
He looked like a good player, so it was surprising that he didn't get a bigger role.
But. Briere called that out as well. He actually called out. They're like, we don't understand.
Yeah, he played he played well at the showcase, which is a mini World Junior. Though we talked about this, the countries took that seriously. You had a USA Canada game; both teams took that seriously. Luchenko played really well, and he was on the power play. And it was I think it was like Catton and like Seneca. Like there was a lot of talent there, and Luchenko would fit in. He fit into a lot of. He seems like to know the skill levels and types and shot preferences of whomever. So the power play specialist aspect hasn't gone away. I don't know what Guelph ranked this year. They probably weren't that good on the power play, but he's a bona fide power play specialist, and that you just see it when he controls the puck. So I'd like to see how so his addition to Lehigh Valley. I didn't see any of there's 2 games, but they have 3 games coming up with Hershey, right? And it's Hershey, okay?
Yeah,
it's like it's like the Nintendo game. They're like the big guy,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And like the Lehigh Valley is going to be the little guy. So I think that's going to be a huge test because again, Lehigh Valley wants to solidify a playoff spot. They want to have some momentum going in, and so that's what I'll be looking at with Luchenko, or if I was a Flyers fan, would I be looking at in his play is
how do they play against one of those best teams, right, in the AHL? Exactly.
Yeah, and not really to like come away with like, all right, this is it. Oh, he played well. He's going to be a star. Oh no, he stunk. He's going to be a bust. It's just like give you an idea of what he could do, expectations for next season.
Yeah, because if he, again, for those listening, he can't play in the minors next year, so it has to be Flyers or back to juniors again because he's not even 19 yet. He doesn't turn 19 till end of August. So
yeah, really young, really young. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he does against Hershey. Right? That's historically the last 3 seasons one of the best AHL teams. Obviously, winning the Calder
Cup. They always
Cup.
Kick our butt.
Yeah, but just to see how a player like Luchenko, so young, like adapts and reacts to a team like that, I think that's something to watch for Flyers fans definitely. So I think it's something cool to tune into.
Yeah. So let's move on because we're gonna get to see Luchenko and have more updates on him moving forward and hopefully in the playoffs as well. Noah Powell. So this is a guy who obviously moved over to the OHL earlier this year. Pretty decent numbers, better than they were in the NCAA in college hockey, which makes sense. His role is different, seems to be. I think he's playing top line. But what can you tell us about Powell, who did come in, with a lot of promise? He's a little bit older than some of the other, I guess, young prospects for being a D1 plus 1 year. What can you tell us about Powell and his, I guess, development so far?
Well, I thought that he had a really good summer showcase. I even talked about, I thought he was a dark horse to make the team. Obviously, they didn't need him because they won. But I said his skating looked really improved. It looked like whatever. I think he was just more mobile. He was more mobile. His shot and his scoring ability in USHL, he seemed to be more static. Whereas once he got to development camp or training camp, whatever he was in, that they were like, hey, you start using your wheels more. And he looked really good in the summertime. Now we're talking around late July, August timeframe. So I thought that would carry over to Ohio State. Now, Ohio State's a Big Ten program. It's a competitive program. They have notable players on it, and they were an older team. They had, championship expectations. And so he could not get in the freaking lineup. And when he did, he was on the 4th line. And I'm like, so all he could really do is hustle and hit. But I'm wondering, again, I don't know anything behind the scenes, but I was wondering if the staff was like, the Ohio State staff was like, he's really going to have to wait his turn. Like, he's just not ready yet to, let's say, drive possession. And not that he needed to drive, but just to not be a grenade with the puck. And it seemed like he was tentative at times. So the move to the OHL, I don't want to say it's a referendum, but guys got 1 point in 20 games in the NCAA. He goes to the OHL. He's a point a game. So that should tell you that it is clearly one league is tougher to scoring than the other.
Yeah, for sure.
Specifically because of the age and the quality of the goaltending. So I watched game 1, Oshawa against Brampton. And this guy, it's amazing. He loves to agitate. He will hit after the whistle. He bumps into people going to the face-off circle. He's very, again, and I don't know if that's something that was prevalent in the USHL because I just really focus on the offensive ability with the overages and the late round guys. I really focus on how they contribute in whether a defensive specialist or an offensive specialist. But now every time I see him play, and this even goes back to the USHL games last year, he is a freaking a nuisance. Like he's physical, he's heavy, he hurts when he sends a message. So the production, we should expect it because he scored 40 goals in the USHL. So he goes to the OHL, and again, the quality of goaltending isn't very good in that league. So I like the way he played, and they had a good win. But I didn't see game 2, and apparently I said the bad goaltending. Ivan Kovic from Brampton stole game 2. So, yeah, I mean, he's old enough to be in the AHL. He could technically go back to college or pick a new college. I don't know what his plans are. But,
I think from what I can tell, just from what you're describing, what I've seen, I imagine he probably has another year of development, but then the Flyers will probably want to get him over in the AHL probably the following year. That's my guess.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that's going to go to camp and like hit everybody and like make a name for himself.
He looked good. He looked good at this past camp. So
yeah, I'm interested to see what happens if he ends up going back to a college team or not, right? Just based on what happened there. So that'll be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it will. Okay, let's move on to the Q. Former second round pick. I think this is a guy that people will be excited about at the end of his junior tenure, Spencer Gill.
Yeah, Rimouski. Because there's two Gills, so I always get Spencer Gill's the one on
Rimouski. Yeah.
All right, so they bulked up. They added some pieces, and I went on like a bit of a Quebec League binge a couple of maybe like about a month ago, and this kid is good. He's really good. You might look at his numbers and say, well, like the goal scoring is down. It doesn't matter. He is always involved in the offense, like power play, joining the attack. So he is really confident. And, I wasn't a huge fan of the pick. But that team, speaking of Memorial Cup, they're a little bit of a dark horse, Rimouski. Because there's a bunch of teams in the Quebec League always wins the Memorial Cup. They always go. Everyone's talking about the OHL and the WHL. The Quebec League shows up and wins. So I want to see how well they do in the playoffs. I haven't watched any Quebec League playoffs yet. I think it just started. And there's a lot. The Quebec League is a good year this year for the draft. You got Zanin, Desnoyers might be Desnoyers' little brother.
Yeah.
And then my favorite, Carbonneau, really good goalies out of the queue as well. So. I'm sure I'll be seeing a lot more of him. But that team is really good. Like they are a threat there's like I say 5 or 6 teams like that, but he's one of their top players. Absolutely.
I know at the draft too, Steve, the Flyers really touted for Gill, just his ability to like jump up in the rush, join the
very
rush.
active.
Is that a lot of what you've seen from him this season? Just what you watched?
He does not have, so that the one piece to that is IQ, right?
When to jump into the play, right?
Sure, because you look at a guy like, speaking of the draft, like Jackson Smith on Tri-City in the WHL.
Yeah.
Top 10 ability, right? He puts his partner in a bind a lot. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with IQ. Like, it's timing. It's all about, like, trying to break down 10 things at once if you're a defenseman. You have to break down puck travel. You have to the speed of puck travel, direction of puck travel. You have to break down the coverage in front of you.
Where's it for your partner?
Where's the gap? Like, who's behind you? Is anybody behind you? What's the stage of the game? Or do you have a lead? Or do you need to push because you're trailing? There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So they've played. The thing about Gill too is he plays well against good teams. That's a big deal to me. So he goes up.
Definitely.
He's reliable. Reliable defensively, good active stick, and really quick first step. I mean, he's not like explosive skater, but he times it perfectly well. He's got decent mechanics, and he loves to shoot. So,
the way I kind of saw him is like a potential like Travis Sanheim type of guy, like does everything well.
He's a puck carrier.
Puck carrying defenseman, 2-way ability, tall, lanky. Like Sanheim was a stick when he showed up to the NHL.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Gill progresses because it's a lot of tools there for sure.
Yeah, that's a guy I'll be watching at camp. So next guy, this is a guy that is kind of forgotten about, and I don't really know his pro viability, but he is a mammoth of a human being. Matteo Mann, with the appropriate name, went back to the Q now after playing the ECHL. How can you tell us about Mann? Does he have any kind of pro upside still at this point?
I mean, he is at his best when he just doesn't move. Like, just stay in the slot, protect it, and whatever. You don't want him to make decisions. I don't want to say he doesn't play with confidence. He does have confidence. He's definitely gotten better with his first pass. But, you look at the defense and the guys they brought in. You got guys like Hunter McDonald. You're bringing in Murchison for an ATO. You got Andrea, you got Grands, so there's a lot of, I don't know if there's something there beyond the size for him to overtake those guys. Cause like, he doesn't really play with a whole lot of like intensity, and he's just very safe. And even when he's safe, he's not like, it's just very hard to notice him. So, St. John had their issues. I don't think he's going to be playing in the playoffs. I don't think St. John made it. I guess I think he's done too. He's eligible for the AHL now.
Yeah,
I believe
he would
so,
be.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're probably looking at an ECHL job for him next year.
Yeah, that I actually
unless
don't...
he has like this. Unless, like I said, and he's a right shot. He's a right shot. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure he's a right
it's okay.
shot.
I'll look it up. I got all the guys.
And so if you got like a 6'6",
Yeah, he is a right shot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
6'6", 6'7" right shot, crease clear, like long stick, active stick, good on the PK. You know what I mean? But
yeah, at best it sounds like a bottom pair type guy if everything were to work out, and who knows if that'll
you know what?
happen,
You know who's
right?
going to benefit from having him around? This is going to sound weird, but the goalies will benefit having him around because he's going to be blocking their view a lot, and they're going to have to learn how to or improve on
fighting around it. There you go.
Yeah, he's pretty good. To man's credit, he's pretty good at avoid like the modern age big defensemen know like they cannot be Mark Stahl and stand in front of the like. And I guess sorry, I had to call the guy out, but he did with the Rangers Flies, did it with everybody. Just stands in front of the goalie, doesn't move. But I think again, like this ties into what we've talked about with the draft in the past, how you don't always draft to have NHL players. You want to draft AHL players too to make competition tough at the lower levels in camps, etc. So I think a guy like man just being a big body, and it was a 7th round pick. So
that's exactly how I kind of view him, as like a future AHL guy at best, maybe ECHL player.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the WHL. Another very important draft pick for the Flyers because we know goaltending is definitely in flux since Carter Hart left the organization. Carson Bjarnason, probably coming over to the Phantoms pretty soon.
So here's the thing about Bjarnason. His numbers improved. I'm surprised a little that Canada didn't start him in the World Juniors.
He didn't get one chance, which was very interesting to me.
And they went with Ivan Kovic because he had and George, I guess, had the gold medal.
Let's be honest, Canada made a lot of very questionable decisions.
Yes.
Yeah, the coaching staff.
No Misa.
Interesting things. So
no Seneca.
So that was it. And he also played pretty good. We talked about it, the World Summer Showcase. So it's like, you plays well the showcase.
Well.
Why have the showcase then? Why have the showcase if your kids are showing up, they're playing well in the tournament, and then you're not picking them? The Finns did the same thing.
It's very strange. Again,
it's hard to knock the Finns because they went to the silver medal. They earned a silver medal. But there were so many Finns that had a great summer tournament. They showed up there in shape. They beat the Americans. And they didn't like 2 of them made the World Junior team. So, but anyway, I think he's in the playoffs now, and he's having trouble in the playoffs again. So, goalies 24, 25, 26. You know what I mean? I hate to just kind of like hand wave that, but he's been in that league. Is it 5 years now? It's almost 4 or 5 years he's been in that league. So it's like, I think it's 4 years. So it's like, all right, we've seen improvements in his statistics year by year, but yeah. So Dustin Wolf was unbeatable. It wasn't just that Everett was a defensive oriented team. He was unbeatable, right? He was an elite goalie, and eventually they're like, dude, you got to go to the AHL. And so now with Bjarnason, I hope it's a case where he's just tired. I mean, the shooters know him. He's been in the league a while, and then now he moves to the next level. It's a new challenge. Shooters don't know anything about him. They don't have a book on him, so it maybe might be easier for him to get off to a good start, have a good camp. But he was the highest. I'll sum it up very simply. He was the highest of draft wise, the highest picked goalie the Flyers have in the pipeline, but technically, mechanically, NHL readiness, like the feel, he's below guys like Zevragin and Kolosov, and so
He seems like a long-term project for the minors. Like he's probably going to be down there for 2-3 years.
But it's weird because like look at a guy like Brandon Halverson, right? That dude was a second-round pick. He used to play for Sault Ste. Marie. He was their number one, put up really good junior numbers, was a second-round pick of the Rangers in 2014. Eventually, the Rangers are like, well, they drafted Shesterkin in the 4th round that year. So second, it's almost like a similar situation with Zevragan. You have the North American goalie, and from the CHL goes in the 2nd round. The Russian goalie goes in the 4th round, or I think Zevragan was 3rd, but Shesterkin was in the 4th round. And then they both, Shesterkin went the Russian path. Halverson went the AHL path. And then eventually Halverson was in the ECHL. Shesterkin was the number 1 for Scott. And then that was it. Bjorn,
it's a very similar path if you look at it.
But then Halverson now pops up, and I think he just had an NHL start. I thought I saw somewhere where he made his NHL debut. He played in the NHL. Freaking 10 years, 11 years after getting drafted.
Well, let's hope that's
I'm not saying
the
he's
case.
going to be a number 1, but it shows like you can't count a guy like Bjarnason out. A guy like myself, when I watched the junior hockey and the draft or whatever, I remember all his little shortcomings and his strengths. I'm like, all right, I was never really a big Bjarnason guy to begin with. So, and I'm sure he's a nice person. I don't mean if his family's watching, they're not like, you don't like my son. No, but I think you got to look at the depth chart, and goaltending is a very touchy situation. So he's going to have his work cut out for him. But I'm not going to doubt him. I think that he needs to get out of junior, and mechanically his glove hand, okay, he can work on that. But
the
quality
AHL
start
test,
consistency.
Right?
I want to see him have quality start consistency.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Have like 7 out of 8 games where you're giving up 1 or 2 goals or less, and a couple of those games against the best teams in the league. You stop at 46 out of 47.
Too, look at the Phantoms, right? They haven't had the most consistent goaltending, so they would benefit from something like that if a guy like him could come in and give them that. So it'll be
they could get rid of Peterson. Is Peterson?
He's done.
His contract's over after the season. Yeah.
His contract's up.
Yeah. Finally.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. This might have doing what they did with him may have strategic implications, and I mean long term. In that, again, just a theory of mine. In that, they rushed Fedotov and Kolosov. The 1-2 in Lehigh Valley should have been Fedotov and Kolosov after Ursin graduated, right? So Ursin is backup caliber. He's not a number 1. He's backup caliber, but maybe backup on a good team. The Flyers should have went out and gotten a goalie to be the number 1. And again, this is just my opinion. And that way you have the two, you have the Belarusian and the Russian in the AHL. Really, and I know that they're older, especially Fedotov. You got to worry about the contract, but still rushing them because they have that guy down. They got to pay that guy down there in the minor leagues. What's his name?
Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson. So I don't know.
Yeah, and the guy they brought in to replace Peterson this year got injured 5 games into the season.
Yeah, Eetu Makiniemi. So it's a very interesting goalie situation for the Flyers.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think
he's making a lot of money to be in the friggin' AHL.
Well, yeah, yes, you're going to see them probably shift towards. You're going to see them probably shift towards younger goalies. Like I think Bjarnason.
They have to. They
and
should.
Kolosov for sure. Right, and next season will be interesting. But Kolosov might be in the mix for the Flyers. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Goaltending is confusing. So the next one is Carter Sotheran, a guy who's up for a contract. I don't believe he's getting it. But seems to be having not a horrible year. Seems to
he
definitely has improved, but not as good as last year.
Well, he lost Cagnoni, right? Cagnoni was that was the pairing with Portland, and Cagnoni, by the way, made the frickin' NHL 4th round pick. I put him in my 1st round. He was a little defenseman, but he could hammer it. And I said, yeah, I like that kid. If you remember, I don't know if you remember, but like usually when I do my draft profiles,
I remember you mentioning him. Yeah.
I do my draft profiles. I usually do the top guys, and I'll just throw some random kid in there that I like to make you think like, oh, he's in the mix. I know he's not, but I do that for the kid's sake, really. And he was that guy in 2023, the Bedard, Smith, Michkov draft. So anyway, they were a really explosive tandem in Portland, and then he left. So you're going to lose the production piece. But, I thought he handled himself well as a top pairing guy. He's mobile. Portland's a pretty good team, so I haven't watched them in the playoffs. So I have to watch them eventually. I got to watch a lot of WHL. Again, you got size, you got mobility, you got shot proclivity. He's got a good reach. Holds his line well. He could be physical. I don't know. I don't know how the Flyers are going to view him. If I'm an NHL team, though, is with a weak pipeline, I jump on that opportunity. I do. I think he's a halfway decent. I'd say C average prospect, but he could be a good AHL defenseman, I think.
Okay, fair enough. We'll see, because the Flyers were telling him he had a lot to work on to get a contract.
Yeah, I mean, he was really raw, though, when they drafted him. Like, he had a lot of things he needed to work out. And I think he got invited by Team Canada to one of the camps, right? It might have been the summer camp.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so all right, so the Team Canada, they're not perfect, but obviously it must be doing something right if they're willing to give him a look. So
sure,
Okay,
well, we'll see what happens, to Carter Southern. All right, NCAA guys, the big one on the name, or the big one on the list, is a guy who's having a lot of success, and we're hopefully waiting on the ELC any day. I know he's still competing, so it's probably not going to happen quite yet, but Alex Bump, a guy that I know you're very high on. We're high on him. We know the Flyers are very high on him. Flora already called him an NHL player. So what can you tell us about Bump? And obviously his recent success has been all over Twitter or X.
Hobie Baker caliber year. Really good. I like why, Western Michigan had Andy Murray as their head coach for a while, and he was a tough SOB. So I don't know what this new coach is like, but he's got them playing great hockey. And I think we talked about him. He went into BC. He went into Conti earlier in the season to face Hagens and BC with Perot and Leonard, number one team in the country, number two team in the country. And they lost late from a Bump turnover. Wasn't his relief. I mean, it was a great game, but we said like he looked amazing. Every time he touched the puck, something good was happening. Well, fast forward to, and again, he did all season. He was their top player. But then the opening game they played in the tournament, I forgot who it was. He took a wrist shot off the release. It was the fastest release wrist shot I think I've ever seen in my life. Like he was in the left circle on his forehand because he's a left shot.
Yeah, I saw the shot. It's unreal.
And he hit the post. It was labeled for the top corner, the short side corner, I think it was, and it was off his. So forget about the accuracy, the rapidity, the explosiveness, whatever you want to, superlative you want to use, of his wrister. So I called him a baby Rick Nash in his draft year. I ranked him very high in the second round. The reason being, and I don't want to repeat myself, I said a million times, but he abused Sam Rinzel in the section when he was playing for was Prior Lake, and Rinzel was for Chiaska, I think. The section is what punches your ticket to the dance. So consider it like the conference tournament championship. And he abused Rinzel, and Rinzel was first round caliber guy. So that's when I bumped him up, no pun intended, to a near first round candidate. And he's making me look smart because he's just he's a playmaker. He's listed at 6 foot, but he looks like he's 6'2" out there because he's got a thick frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a beast. Well, I'm really excited for him to make the next step.
Well, how do you see him in his pro career? Do you see him as needing time in the AHL, or because I've kind of been penciling him as like a potential guy to make the Flyers next year?
Maybe because he's been the go-to guy everywhere he's been, and unless some he shows up and is scoring a goal a game in camp or in preseason, like he's going to have to learn, or mentally prepare to be a third. Because remember, even his freshman year at Western Michigan, he was a prize recruit. They were playing him, top line minutes or top 6 minutes immediately, top PP. What if he's not scoring? What kind of player is he? He's offense first, without a doubt. He could be physical, but he's not really like Western Michigan plays a pretty good system, so I think he'll be okay. But you want offense from him. So he's got Michkov to contend with. He's got Tuamala to contend with, Forster, Brink. I mean, the wings, Konechny, there's so he's going to probably be like we said about Michkov. If he's not going to score, if he's not scoring immediately, he's going to go right down to the A, and then take it from there. But I would say let him learn the system.
So most likely AHL bound sounds safer.
Yeah, and if the power play with the big club struggles, then all right, we got to give this kid a look because he is a power play assassin. Like he doesn't make his living on the power play. He just makes the power play any power play deadlier because of his shot, his playmaking, his vision, his release.
Yeah, I guess you could imagine
is a hell of a setup
Michkov.
guy. Luchenko's a hell of a setup guy. He's the perfect guy to set up.
I love that. I love the Rick Nash comparison. We could use a guy like that.
Yeah, stylistically, yes.
Yeah.
Stylistically, the same type of like shot release, skating style. Yeah. I saw a lot of similarities.
So newcomer Carson Dorwart, who just signed his ELC, joining the Flyers. He's on the roster right now. I assume we're going to see him in some games here at the end of the stretch. I'm not sure in what capacity, but a center with size. So seems interesting. None of us really know too much about him.
Oh man! So Michigan State, pound for pound. I mean, they lost a really, really tough game to Cornell in the NCAA. They were the number one ranked team heading into the tournament, but Boston College was the number one seed. So I don't know how that works. But anyway, they won back-to-back Big Ten titles. Michigan State used to be a really prominent program when I was growing up in the Ron Mason. And then they had a period, like a lengthy down period. They were producing first over, high draft picks, top 3 picks, top 10 picks. Michigan State was known for that. And on the Nightingale, he's brought it back. They are a fun team to watch. And here's the one thing I love about Michigan State is that they play a similar game. They remind me a lot of like the 2018 Winnipeg Jets. Remember how freaking nasty and heavy they were? Like just beat you, that big mobile defense, the aggressive, the heavy forecheck. They play like that kind of aggressive style. And the physicality is through the roof, but they make skill plays. Their breakouts are precision. So there's a lot of skill. Like it's not like Michigan State just took advantage of everybody because they have a great goalie in Augustine. They have a sniper in Howard. And they have this, this buy-in from everybody. And it's just chemistry. Like, no, like they are talented. They rolled 4 lines. Dorwart, I think it was Gavin O'Connell, Dorwart, and somebody else were like a heavy second line, but they produced. And they really, you had a plan for them. You got to plan for a guy like Dorwart because like he's heavy in his style. He's aggressive. He's a good skater. He's mobile. He's got a good shot. He could shoot it off the pass. Nice touch playmaker. Like, so the breakouts he support. That's the other thing about Michigan State is almost all their forwards support down low. They are a not defense first, but they're almost ordered to make life easier for their goalie. And they do. So he always supported down low. And then once you get the puck, I can't tell you how many times I've watched, because I watched Michigan State a lot this year because of, the last 2 years, because Levshinov was a top 5, 10 pick caliber kind of prospect last year. And then this year they had Shane Van Sage, who's not going to be a first round pick, but he was an NTDP kid, first year eligible playing college. So I had to watch him in addition to all the other kids in the Big Ten. So if you watch the Big Ten broadcasts, they love Dorwart. They love a lot of Michigan State guys, but they love him. So this was, I'm surprised there wasn't a bidding war for him, or I wonder like how that worked out. Where
I believe Friedman was saying on 32 Thoughts there were a couple teams interested, but the Flyers were really the front runners and pushing for him. And if you think about the center depth, Steve, right, like it's really lacking. So you're Briere, you're thinking, how do I bolster this potentially?
Well, and he might see that as well, right?
Exactly, right. He might have been scouting and seeing his play as well. So it's interesting that the Flyers jump in with them needing centers. So.
I'm saying Dewart might have saw the opportunity as well, where he doesn't have, a bunch of first round picks in the way, or even second round picks in the way.
I mean, he's like, I guess you could say like he's kind of like what a Berglund could be. You know what I mean? Like a similar type.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
would you say like a Cates maybe, like a similar to a Cates potentially, or?
How big is Cates?
6'1", 6'2".
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's just he's a. I see Cates similarities. but the precision in his short distance passing under pressure, the calmness with the puck was a hallmark of that line. Like that line really, it's a huge deal to me because my team sucks at it. So like I pay attention to how teams are breaking out. Are they, once they kill a play or when the puck comes loose, are they getting nervous with the puck? And so, I mean, this guy can handle the puck. Walls collapsing around him and he'll delay. He doesn't flinch and he'll make really his chips are accurate. Like the chip and chase, like that big body barreling towards you. He's physical. So easily one of the, I think not the most, but easily one of my favorite players on Michigan State. Like if I said, I want this guy to play on my team, who do I pick out of these types? He'd be one of them, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see him. We should see him on, what is it, Saturday?
Saturday against the Habs, I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Shaw said. So we should see him soon. All right, another center, Cole Knuble.
Great season. Fun to watch. So Notre Dame, their record stunk. It's almost like it's similar to last year with from an individual standpoint, how Knuble's numbers didn't look good, but he played great. Like for a freshman, he had a lot of bad numbers. He had plenty of bad puck luck in his freshman year. And I remember saying that. And then, but Notre Dame this year, I thought they were going to be good. I thought that they were going to, make noise in the Big Ten. And they really had bad luck as a team. They lost a lot of close games. They would have like 2-0 leads. Goaltending is maybe part of it, but Knuble played great against really good programs, right? Michigan State, Michigan, Minnesota, all ranked teams, in some cases, title contenders. And the one thing that really stood out to me, though, beyond his playmaking, was his speed, how fast he got, or how improved his speed is.
That's awesome.
And that it's almost like there was a goal he scored against. Well, I don't know if he scored the goal, but he facilitated. It was against Wisconsin. And I was watching Logan Hensler play, and Hensler actually is the one that got burned, and he's a great skater himself, a defense prospect for this coming draft. And Knuble had one step, so first step quickness, which is a big deal, and he blew past him in a 50-50 race. So, you look at Bump, you look at Knuble, you can make the argument that each were the best players for their respective teams as sophomores. Not
awesome.
Common.
And the skating is really important because that was the knock on Knuble.
No, it's not. It shouldn't be a knock. No.
Okay.
I don't think it's a knock at all.
I like that. I'm excited for Knuble. He's also right-handed, so that's cool. All right, another guy who I think might be close to an ELC also is Devin Kaplan, who we've kind of been waiting on. Yeah.
He's the perfect role player. So like BU is they're on the brink of a national championship, and he's a big part of it. The numbers are going to say this kid, he's a wing, but he's a defense oriented wing. He's dedicated to his craft. When I watch him play, I'm not looking for, like, he makes smart decisions with the puck. He's got a hell of a shot. You just wish that he would use it more, but he doesn't really have that sniper mentality as a wing because he's so defensively responsible, but he also plays a heavy game as well. So
seems like a Garnet Hathaway potential, type of guy.
Well, I think LaPerriere is going to like him too.
Yeah.
I think LaPerriere is going to like him.
Yeah, he got a lot of size as well. So it'll be interesting to see once he makes it to the Phantoms how he can play in the AHL.
Likes to fight, physical, hitter, has some offensive jump.
And that's what they drafted him to kind of fill, right? Like they were looking at his type of player, and I think that was the type of player they were hoping he would kind of become.
He's always been, even go back to the NTDP, he's always been that kind of player, man.
Yeah, you mentioned it when even the Flyers drafted him. So
he's always been the same player, and that's why, like, okay, if he scored 20 goals, I don't know about BU this year, but last year with Celebrini, they were top heavy. It was a great team in terms of NHL prospects. They had Hudson, but I think it just doesn't seem like it bothers him that he plays in a supporting role. And he's not going to show up to camp expecting like, well, I'm the best here. I'm going to freaking play
and he's
everybody.
good at that role.
I need
obviously.
the puck. I need the puck. Like, he's the guy you send out for late and close. He's the guy you send out for a penalty kill. Provides you good minutes, I think.
Yeah, and I think he's Jewish, which doesn't really matter, but I'm Jewish, so I pay attention to that because his last name's Kaplan. So odds are he is. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for him. I hope he gets an ELC soon. Because I think we need more size on the wing. We need more size in general.
A lot of small wingers for the Flyers. So.
We're way too small. So Owen McLaughlin, I don't think he's going to get the signing in the end, but a pretty good, I think NCAA player, right? So I'm not sure what's going to happen to him. He is a center. Seems like he's having somewhat of a down year, but not that bad. Just under a point a game. So what can you tell us about McLaughlin?
Well, Sasha Boisvert was a first-round pick, and he joined the team, so he ate into his. I mean, he had the 1-2 punch.
And you were high on Boisvert last season, right, Steve? So
yeah. But now the coach got fired, or the coach left, and they just lost two of their prize recruits. Right, Boisvert's leaving, and Jaden Perron is leaving. And I like Perron a lot. I had him ranked a lot higher. I think he's a Carol. No, that's Nadeau. Jaden Perron. I forgot who I drafted him. But anyway, so it's a period of transition for North Dakota. With him, he's a pass first playmaker. He's a power play specialist. He's always been that kind of a player. I think he's got 1 year left. So the Flyers could maybe wait, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to. And I think you got a kid drafted late out of the USHL or. He might have been drafted out of prep. That he's going to take time to. He's going to probably take the full development path, right? No shortcuts. He's going to do like a year or two in the USHL and then 4 full NCAA. So the Flyers have another year, but he's like I guess if you look at him on the depth chart, you got a lot of playmakers, right? You have like Berglund's a playmaker, Luchenko's a playmaker. They've drafted a whole bunch of playmaking centers in the past. They just got Dor Ward. He plays center, but so that we're seeing them build up. Then they got Rizzo.
Massimo Rizzo.
Okay, so like the numbers are not in McLaughlin's favor in terms of like depth wise, but because the power play stinks, and I think even Lehigh Valley's power play stinks. Yeah. So it's not that good. So. I mean, a guy like that could help in that regard. You give him a look-see. But again, it might be, remember that this draft, they have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you got to be worried about contracts and you know what I'm saying? It's just like you're moving blocks, right? You're taking a block and you're moving it, you're transporting it to a new, location or whatever. Like you're moving the block from the warehouse to the site.
Yeah, you got to make room for these new players coming in.
Exactly. So there's going to be a wave of recent draftees reaching AHL eligibility. Some kids might stay in Europe. That's easy for the Flyers. Some kids might stay in college. That's easy for the Flyers. But those that are like coming out of the CHL. So I don't know. I want to see him like he's going to be a senior. I want to see him be like one of the best players in the conference.
More assertive.
Yeah. But he's still a very good playmaker though. Like,
led the team in assists from what I can see, and
it's a perfect 2C.
Yeah,
for the college level, but North Dakota didn't make the tournament, and he played really well against Duluth. I watched the 2 games against Minnesota Duluth, and it's like a rivalry-ish kind of thing. He played pretty well.
Okay,
so
what can you tell us about Ryan McPherson, who seems to be very low in the depth chart for University of New Hampshire?
He's a kid that probably should have stayed in the BCHL or the USHL, maybe switch over because he went to UNH. UNH never really, and I hate to knock UNH because they're Hockey East, but they're usually behind the 8 ball when it comes to recruiting and getting top end talent. Right? They're in line with like the UMass Lowells and the Merrimacks, whereas all the big names are going to go to BU. They're going to go to BC, Northeastern, UMass. So I thought, well, he's an NHL draft pick on a team that doesn't have a whole lot of NHL draft picks. You would think right off the bat, well, he's an NHL draft pick. They didn't friggin' play him. Not only did they not play him, they played him at wing. And I always thought that he was like a complete 200-foot center and a pass first, unselfish kind of like guy, like intangibles, toolsy. I always thought of him as that kind of guy prior to joining the college ranks. And he was healthy scratched for the Hockey East playoffs, unless he got hurt. But he wasn't in the lineup.
1 goal, 1 assist in 18 games, which is definitely lower than the rest of the team.
But UNH had an older team, so maybe the staff is like, be patient. We want you to learn. We have big plans for you next year.
So, okay.
He's only a freshman, so they have time for him.
So let's keep an eye on him next year. We'll see. Maybe he'll make a big jump. All right, and the newcomer just earned an ELC, Ty Murchison, the defenseman.
All right, so NCDP kid, one of my favorites during that season. It was 2021. Good skater, big hitter, big open ice hitter. That was always his calling card.
Okay, like that.
He went to Arizona State. So with him, you're getting size, mobility, and physicality.
Shot blocking, we saw. I think he led his team or broke the record.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's got a clapper, but it's not very accurate.
Okay.
Unless I'm confusing him with the other guy, his other partner. But no, he's a.
Oh, he had no goals this year, so that's probably.
Yeah, you're not going to get any. You're not going to get any offense from him. You're not going to get barely any offense from him.
Okay.
But again, it goes back to what I said about Matteo Mann. Just those kids, they're not going to just be like, oh, I'm only a 7th round pick. I don't have to, I want you guys to get I'm not interested in a job.
Yeah, playing a certain role, exactly.
No, like they're going to go and they're going to fight. So, hopefully, Murchison isn't hurting his fellow prospects. But yeah, he's nasty. So like you got me, like the Flyers again. It's that trend of like want to be tough to play against. So
it reminded us of like adding a McDonald type, right?
Go.
Big body, physical, shot blocker, mean.
There you go.
Play on that third pair,
not heralded either, right?
Right?
He wasn't heralded. McDonald wasn't heralded, and he became an organizational favorite pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of what I'm seeing here too, because we were surprised he got an ELC, but then when you break it down, you're like, okay,
sounds like a Flyers type of player.
Yeah, we also need we need more of these guys in the organization. We don't really have like a lot of upcoming guys outside of McDonald that play like that type of role,
that physical bottom pairing type role, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to U.S. Hockey League. Heikki Rahonen, who had a pretty damn good season. If you look at
still going on.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, really good team. Liked him. I liked him all season. So we all know when he was in the thing he played for Espoo.
Yeah.
In the SM Sarja, he was the top line center. I still think his line mate, the winger, should have gotten drafted, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, we knew he was unique because he was going to committed to Harvard out of the SM Sarja. So there was going to be a gap where he'd go into the USHL. So you're always curious, okay, smaller rink, adapting, but really from the summertime at the summer showcase, his play at the World Juniors, I thought was very good. He was like added value to that team. I think he actually had a role in them winning silver and scoring some big wins. But with him, it's almost like one of the most seamless transitions I've seen from Europe to North America. Even though it's the USHL, I think he's college ready now because he's always physically engaged, and it goes back to what you said about size. He's got quickness of his feet in short distance. He's got strength. He's got size. He's got really good vision. He's going to be a playmaker. He's got finishing touch around the net. So his team's got, I think Dubuque's got championship aspirations, Clark Cup aspirations. So he's not the best player on the team, but that team has a lot of talent on it. I personally think that he should be in college. That he should go to Harvard next year. He's proved 2 years of junior was enough for him.
And yet he's going to be playing again in the U.S. Hockey League, right?
Yeah, I hope he doesn't get hurt. Because I think he had some injury issues last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's again another hard to play against guy. And we talked about this after he was drafted, that the Flyers have types, right? They want their centers to have like on ice leadership ability and more like their play, right? They have to represent the position well, right? That's my top line center, and he deserves to be the top line center. And you know, so he's not like the nominal top line center for Dubuque, but he plays like the same. It's not like he's like trying to play a game that he's unfamiliar with or uncomfortable with. He's a 200-foot, heavy, talented, you know, top six kind of a center.
He seems like a definite NHL future type of prospect to me.
Yeah.
Just from everything I've seen and watching him play.
He's having a good season. He played really well at the summer showcase too. So
yeah. Third line center looks like an ideal type of third line center prospect.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he's going to the ECA. The ECAC is a low scoring league. The rinks are small, and some of those rinks are really old too in the ECAC. So I think playing at Harvard, which is one of my favorite rinks, by the way, if you haven't been there, the transition from, I guess, like putting him into the meat grinder. I want to see him in the meat grinder. So although the ECAC is like defense oriented, it's not as like physical as the NCHC. So I want to see him in the meat grinder because he's to me he's done with junior. The AHL or college is really what we'll get a sense of what he could do. And I'm just saying that because you can say that about any prospect. But with him, I think he's going to make a lot of enemies. I'm going to be honest with you. I think like he's going to be a concern for coaches.
Good.
Moving forward.
Love it.
Like I think he's going to make an immediate impact in college. It's just that, you know, he's got the size advantage and he's doing it in junior hockey. So, you know,
how's he going to do it at that next level with maybe bigger players?
Yeah.
Things like
it's almost a shame that, you know, that he's not going to be playing college hockey, but we'll see.
Well, he'll be back in the World Juniors, that's for sure.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how he does there.
100%. Okay, Austin Moline, a prep school grad, now playing in the U.S. Hockey League. Big body, 6'5".
Yeah, so I wasn't that sold on him, but he plays for a great team, and I think he's hurt. I think he was. There's a guy that went to Minnetonka High School last year named John Stout, one of my favorite defensemen in U.S. hockey, right? Whether it be prep or high, you know, college, any USHL. This kid is so smooth. I'm talking about Stout. And he exuded, you know, number one top pairing type tendencies early in the season. He played at the Junior A World Challenge. He was one of the best defensemen there. And Moline was made his partner. And they worked really well together. I don't know what happened to him, why he got hurt. Because they're about to play in the playoffs. And they are probably, I think they might have, is it Madison? The Capitals.
Yeah, Madison Capitals.
They might have the best record. I think they have the best record or one of the best records in the USHL. So he's given significant minutes. Remember I said like on the Shattuck team, he was kind of like a passenger, but I think he's a impactful role player for this particular team. And as a draft +1.
He's plus 38 on the year.
Yeah.
Second highest to Stout. Yeah. So
they're a good pairing. They're a good pairing. I don't know why he hasn't played. He hasn't played like in a couple of days.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, he
has a lot of size, so it's interesting to see like with the 7th round pick. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's found money, right? So
yeah. So we'll see. That's an interesting.
I just like when I see partners play well with each other in this chemistry. I love it because like it's like you know, the sixth sense. Like you eyes in the back of your head. So obviously there's going to be an adjustment when is he going to Colorado College? He's not going to like a big time program.
Colorado College. Yep.
All right, there you go. Yeah.
Next
all right.
year.
So Colorado College. So he, you know, at this rate, he's going to show up there as a heralded freshman. And I don't know what their roster looks like for in 2 years. I think it's 2 years, but when he goes there, but
no, it's next year.
Okay, so he that's a huge jump to go from Shattuck to Ushel to freaking NCAA and that's good for the Flyers then. Good for him too.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I love the big defensemen. I mean, if you hit on them, it's huge. All right. Let's go to Finland. Santeri Silku.
Yeah, he was hurt for almost the whole season.
Yeah.
So he's got a big shot. He's also a pretty good playmaker as well from the wing.
big guy too. 6'4",
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if his Mestis, he's still in the Mestis. I want to see this kid in the SM Liga. I don't know what, I think, is he committed to college? Is that what the deal is? I don't know.
Let me double check.
I thought there's some reason why.
Not seeing it on here.
Okay, so I think he's ready for the freaking. I'm not that tapped into Finland to know why hasn't been elevated, but I know he had a long-term injury.
Yeah,
he came back from it. He looked good.
He had 6 goals in 7 games, and
he's an offensive talent.
Yeah,
but he's not just a goal scorer; he's also a playmaker too. He's got pretty good hands. So he's another power play. He's like a Bump, because Bump is a dual threat. We all talk about Bump's shot and his goal scoring, but he's a very good passer. So I think you're looking at, and again, we keep forgetting that Michkov's in this mix as well. But you're looking at, in Tuamala, you're looking at like guys that really own the circle.
Yeah.
Or the opposite circle. They're the off wing, if you want to call it that, where it's like Ovechkin went from the circle to the top of the circle. That was his office. These guys, they're really deadly in those areas. So maybe that was all by design, the way the Flyers have been drafting.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see, Sulku. I'm not sure. I thought he seemed like a prime AHL
I just don't know the nature
guy.
of his injury. But he obviously was serious if he missed 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, very serious. He was off to a rocket start and then just disappeared off our list.
But at least he came back, though.
Yeah. So let's move on to Sweden. Jack Berglund, also somebody who dealt with semi-serious injury, but now is back.
Yeah, he's in the he's in the Allsvenskan now.
Yep.
He got loaned out there. So I thought that he was Färjestad was remember, Färjestad didn't have a great junior program. They were okay, but he was, in my opinion, was their best player. So he got the expected SHL promotion. I was surprised. And not really surprised. I thought he had a good shot at making Team Sweden's World Junior team. And he didn't play.
Well, I think he got hurt right before then. That's what happened.
That's what happened. Okay, exactly. Yeah. So in the SHL, he showed that he could hang physically. He showed that he could hang foot speed, pace wise. You just didn't see, he played it really, really safe. So I think maybe I'm assuming Färjestad loaned. Again, I'm speculating. They loaned him out to the Allsvenskan, and I don't know if his team got eliminated or not. But I only see.
Okay, I see qualification round. 3 points in 5 games.
What was the name of the team that he plays for in the Allsvenskan?
Karlskoga.
Karlskoga. Okay,
yeah.
I think. I think BK Karlskoga. I think they just got upset actually.
Okay, so
I got to check. But anyway, no. So like Chernik just got eliminated. I think he was playing for Nybro or Kalmar or something like that.
And now he's just got the Phantoms.
Yeah, he just got eliminated in the Allsvenskan playoffs, and now he's in North America. So I don't know, but Berglund is again with his size, his penalty killing ability, his physicality, face-off ability. You're looking at a bottom 6 type of a guy, guy that can help out in specifically one area. So I don't think that's changed. Although I do think his skill with the puck is better than what you would think. And we talked about this.
Yeah.
The thing is, a guy like Dorwart is a similar player. He's way further along in his development. He's also older.
Yeah. He's
so maybe
4 years older. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's, if you're going to create a 27, 28 Flyers lineup, and you're going to hand out positions and roles and responsibilities, if you put under PK1, PK2, PK3 centers, you're going to have Berglund there. You know what I mean? And then, I don't think you're going to say Berglund's going to be our second line center. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But then again, you never know. I mean, he's got offensive talent, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how he develops. He's a very intriguing one for me. I love Swedish players, so I'm
has size, looks really good defensively, so it'll be interesting.
Okay, you mentioned him already, Alex Ciernik. Vasili mentioned it. He's coming over. He's over here in North America. Signed his ATO, so that means he's probably getting an ELC. They just didn't want to burn it on this playoff run. He has not played a game yet for whatever reason. Maybe he didn't come over yet due to visa reasons. But he should be joining the Phantoms any day. I think this is one I'm actually pretty excited about, and I think he can do well offensively in the AHL. What do you got for us on Ciernik? Because you did talk about how he needed a change probably,
or need to come over here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because he's been in the Allsvenskan for a long time. He's played for like a bunch of different teams. Yeah. So he's played against men. He's a Slovak, so when he played on that U18 program, I think he played for the U18 program. He played against, so he's played. He's physically ready. There's a guy that played for his team that I liked a lot. I was kind of hoping he was going to get drafted last year as a first-year overager, but now he's a double overager, Callie Carlson, and they were on a line together for this playoff. They got Carlson from a Rebro, and they played together in the playoffs. And again, Ciernik he just somehow finds a way to have instant chemistry with his line mates. So he's not a center, but he has center tendencies, and that he's a playmaker, he's a stick handler.
Yeah,
really good along the boards. So the power play, I can't tell you what the power play numbers were for his Allsvenskan team, but I think he's a guy that, again, he's a playmaker. He's poised with the puck. He's doesn't really rush his decisions. Skating is kind of deceptive, but he's shifty or like elusive, slippery. So I thought he had another typical, like the few games I watched him, he's like, what he does. His team definitely relied on him as a top six type.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there were also times where he didn't play a whole lot, but because he was always one of the younger guys of the team. So, but again, I think he's a sleeper for me in terms of showing up to camp and putting up a lot of points and kind of forcing the team's hand a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, he always looked good in all the dev camps and all the scrimmages and all that stuff that I've seen him. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do with the AHL.
Yeah, he looks like a talented player. I wonder too, maybe if just a situation where as he starts to play with more talented guys, you see more of the skill come out. Who knows, right?
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully he gets to play soon. All right, last two players. We're over in Russia now. And, let's do Ilya Paltov first, and then we'll end on Zavragin.
It's only fitting, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so like we talked about before with him, he's a top-line guy, very exciting, points in bunches, prolific, dynamic, exciting. Use whatever terms you want to use. The big test is going to begin, I think, tomorrow or the 3rd, because Krasnaya Armia is usually they are CSKA's junior team, right? CSKA is one of the top teams in Russia. It's a proud program. It stands for Red Army and Central Red Army, and Krasnaya Armia is basically their junior team. And they went through this weird rebuilding phase where they weren't that great. And they weren't a perennial powerhouse in the Russian junior league like they usually were. And a lot of high round picks came from that program in recent years. So they were rebuilding. So we kind of knew that this year was if you look at it in NHL terms, it was going to be like the decision season, right? Like where you did a rebuild. Now let's see results, right? Almost like when a college basketball team has freshman recruits and it takes them until their senior year to be good and make a run in the big dance. So it's similar to that. But the thing is, the MHL split up their divisions and conferences. So they have the silver division and the gold division. The gold division is for good teams. The silver division is for the bottom feeders, right? It's almost and so the good news is that Krasnaya Armia won that division. They won the second or lesser division. But the thing is, they didn't play that great against the gold division teams like the SKA 46s and the Almazes and I think it's Avto, I'm forgetting, or Dinamo and MSK. So anyway, I want to see how he's going to perform. They won their play-in round, their qualification round. I want to see how he's going to play against SKA 46 because he's still on the smaller side. He still tries to do a little bit too much with the puck. But I'm wondering what's Big CSKA, the parent club, is, because I think Zvezda is the VHL team, so he'll probably play there next year. But I'm wondering if the KHL, if he has a really strong playoff and he kind of helps carry.
Maybe they graduate him. Do you think is it possible?
They'll give him a long look, yeah. But then they might worry about. But he's very exciting. I mean, he's a flashy, skill.
Looks like a high skill type of guy, right?
Very high skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
His game, so.
We know that the Flyers Russian prospect, I forget his name at the moment, but he was very high on Paltov and insisted the Flyers take him. He seems like a long-term Russian
Oleg
project.
Zinarev?
Yeah,
something like that.
It does say that he played 3 playoff games already, Steve. 2 goals.
That's the play. That's like the qualifying round that they do. Because remember, they were in that second division or second. So that now I think nominally this is like the first round.
Okay. So he had 2 goals.
46 is playing. I'm pretty sure they're playing. I saw the bracket.
Okay. So he had 2 goals, 1 assist in those 3 games. So pretty good. Yeah. And he's third on the team in points. So
yeah, he's a top player without a doubt.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. All right. Let's end on the creme de la creme. Maybe the Flyers' top prospect right now. I think it's
the way he's playing in the KHL. I mean, it's arguable.
Young superstar goaltender, which is crazy to say that he's in the Flyers' prospect pool, which is nice because we really need that. Igor Zavragin.
Yeah, remember what I said right after he got drafted? Remember I said how he was in the VHL and the guy ahead of him was like 49 years old.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get, I'm like, just let the kid freaking play. Let him play. And look at where we're at. He is the starting playoff goalie for SKA in the KHL.
Amazing.
I mean, so there's really, what else is there to say? I mean, he is following in the path of Shesterkin. So, and again, I'm not saying he's going to be Shesterkin because we all know that this organization has had terrible luck with goalies for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, how could you? I mean, he's following the same. And I said Tretiak himself said that this guy was the future of Russian goaltending.
You can't take that lightly, right? When a guy like Vladimir Tretiak
and with Askarov getting the same kind of treatment, but they've always, the federation they've always loved this kid. And he'd be the number 1 in all the U18 and U20 tournaments that we can't see because they're the IIHF ban. So the question now is, when do we get him to North America? You did it with Michkov.
I think with the goalie
to make that. Now, remember they were saying Scott and Michkov weren't getting along, Rottenberg, but now Scott's like, this kid is going to be
I wonder, Steve, it's interesting because, right, like I wonder the Flyers, their track record with goalies, they haven't always been the greatest at developing goalies, though Carter Hart in the AHL worked out well. I wonder if you're the Flyers, do you say, hey, it's going really well in Russia, Wiskal, let's let him, play 2-3 seasons, let's let him kind of develop, and then we'll bring him over when he's kind of almost a finished product at 22, 23, like or 23, 24, like a Shesterkin, something like that.
He's got 2 years left on that contract with Scott.
Yeah,
so nonetheless, he's going to be playing that out, I would say.
I mean,
it would be
a good story.
Yeah.
If they could pull him, if they could, what KHL train, it's basically like a passive transfer agreement.
I mean, they obviously worked through it with Michkov, so there's a way to navigate it that Danny Bria and the staff have done before. So it's interesting. I just wonder with the goalie, you always look at 19-year-olds super young. Maybe they want to give more development time.
That's
over
the thing.
there, right?
I would assume that Scott would have the same attitude that it's like
probably
he can come over, but he better be
NHL time.
Yeah, he better be in the NHL. Like, you're not bringing him over to play him in the AHL. Like, we're even having that problem with Kolosov this year. And like, you were talking about Kolosov and Fedotov in the minors. I don't think that was even an option for Fedotov to play the minors. He got a big contract when he got here. So I think, and he probably shouldn't have gotten that contract. He probably should have got 1.5 million, not 3.25 million. That was probably,
if you look at the play. But
so I think like when they bring over Zavragin, and maybe he's ready now, to be honest with you, I don't know.
I don't know if he's ready now.
Right, exactly.
He's only KHL, 19. He's good. And it's one of those situations where SKA was behind the 8 ball. And because I don't think they're having as dominant a season as they usuly have.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, and they lost the guy that was there last year. So there was a vacancy. I mean, at this point, if the goal is to not, if the goal is to not bite the deadline and not sign free agents, then you're freaking rebuilding.
Yeah.
So why rush him? You know what I mean? Like, just keep him there, and like I said, let him establish himself even more so, and then try to work the contractual situation.
Yeah. I know that the Canadians are trying to get Demidov out
which is interesting.
Scott,
I would imagine too, you have Michkov as well. Like that will probably potentially help you in getting him out in the future. I would hope, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. All right, that's it for all the players. That was long and awesome. And
thanks so much, Steve, for all your
no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed that segment because we don't usually get like updates on everybody like that in one. So that's why I love doing these episodes. Okay, just one before we can wrap up, we'll do our final like 1 or 2 segments here. Just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications on YouTube, and for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes. Again, this is the best way to support our show and to get content like this. Okay, let's talk about this quickly. Steve, we'll start off with your opinion on this because Vasili and I, we kind of talked about it. We didn't go fully in depth into it, but there's a lot of talk about free agents or restricted free agents this offseason. The door is now open with, what St. Louis did last year. And, it's pretty much the best crop of free agents this year, almost easily are restricted free agents. The UFA crop is not that strong this year, and most likely will get weaker as we approach free agency. So there is a lot of talk about potentially going out and getting RFAs or bids going out there. What are your thoughts? And then Vasili, you can chime in, and I'll chime in afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it briefs well. When you have all those picks, you can make it. I mean, we all talked about the unwritten rule. We've seen the dark side to it, right? With Aho and the Kotkaniemi, like that was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous that it came to that. And then they almost say like a mockery of it. This is my opinion. And then what happened with St. Louis and Edmonton last year, I think if it's a situation where you're desperate, like the Rangers with Joe Sakic, I don't know if you remember that. That was a huge one.
Yeah.
Where
there's
the Rangers,
the Flyers and Shea Weber back in the day.
Well, just like a Holloway with St. Louis, right? Like he's having a monster season for them. That's a great move. So,
well, that was the thing too. And Edmonton, I think, was willing to stomach that blow or that pill because they knew they had Draisaitl and McDavid and Hyman. Like, I mean, the list goes on. Bouchard, like they had to really commit to that core coming off of a Stanley Cup run or a visit. So I don't think I think teams at the end of the day know if they lose a valuable RFA to that in that way, the fans will freaking murder them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it'll dominate the discussion for months and months, especially if it's someone of value. So with the cap going up and a lot of teams finding it easy, willing to trade multiple first round picks just to sell off bad contracts or just, you know what I mean? They'll always go that route before, unless it's a situation where the player is done. And he's like, I want to get the frick out of here. I don't like it here anymore. And I'll sign your offer sheet. And then, so I don't know. I don't think we're going to see an offer sheet, but I think we will see, not see, because we won't see it. Like there'll probably be attempts.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think you're spot on. Like,
I mean, we'll know it if someone offers one. And I think we'll come close to one being offered, but I don't think one is going to be offered.
Well, it all depends on the player signing it, right? So, like, the player firstly has to sign and accept. So we'll see. Like, I wanted to really bring it up just because it got mentioned on 32 Thoughts by Elliot Friedman. So he essentially stated Philly has in 2026 their first, they have their second, they have their third, they have their fourth. So all the draft picks in 2026 and the 7 picks obviously in the first 2 rounds this season. He stated teams are starting to look around saying, is that going to be the offer sheet team this year? So it's a good question just in terms of, okay, sure. Flyers have tons of draft picks. Obviously, they have nothing to lose considering where they are. So if you're looking to add and build to your team, maybe this is how you get a young player. One name that got thrown around was Maverick Bork. Is he a guy maybe that Dallas might have trouble signing just due to everything happening with Rantanen and Wyatt Johnson. So I thought it pretty interesting. I don't know if it'll happen. I think it's pretty rare. You always have this talk going into the offseason and things like that, right? Oh, this is going to be the big RFA year, big RFA year. Even last year, people were talking about it, and you really only have Edmonton do 2 offer sheets. And those are the first offer sheets you see in years since the Aho Kotkaniemi. So I think the likelihood's probably slim, but for us in the show we're doing, it's fun to talk about it and bring it up and think about the possibilities. But I think if you look at the league and just the assets, right, like the Flyers are probably the team most poised to do it just based on the draft picks, where they're at. I think if they're going to do it, it makes sense to do it for a center just because, I mean, look at the center depth they have, right? So
yeah, sure. Sometimes the agents are behind this too. Like they'll use their media friends to kind of like throw that out there so they could use it as leverage. Like, oh no,
exactly.
Guy is my favorite guy is going to be offer sheeted. Oh no, we have to we'll double it, we'll triple it. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
it's all leverage.
Yeah. So my whole attitude is, and I think St. Louis did it as right as you can do it. They gave short-term deals. They did overpay, but not completely substantially. They were kind of in that middle-of-the-road territory to begin with, and now they're looking like a playoff team. So
and they bet on guys taking a next step too, right?
Yes, so. and they weren't giving up a top 5 pick with what they were returning. So when I look at the Flyers situation, I go, okay, there is no guarantee that the Flyers won't be another bad team, at least as of right now, next year. Not this offseason, but the following offseason. I don't think the Flyers are willing to gamble that on an RFA. I think what we could see this offseason are trading of restricted free agents.
Yes.
Like that I could definitely see. Like
absolutely, yeah.
The Flyers have these extra first-round picks. They have extra second-round picks. They could be like, we'll give you a first and a second for, I'm just throwing out a name here, Marco Rossi, right? Like, and you're not
Janice Rossi.
and you're not leveraging.
Wait, come on, what's that reference from?
I couldn't tell you.
Rossi, Janice Rossi, apartment 2 all. Come on.
Oh, Seinfeld, right? Oh, Goodfellas. I'm thinking Seinfeld.
Banging on the frickin'.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Rossi, Janice.
And I've seen that movie like 15 times, and I don't remember that.
That's an amazing movie, but I don't know why I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it is.
I always when it was his draft year, I always would make. I'm like Marco Rossi from Apartment 2R, and only like a couple.
It's what's his name? Ray Liotta's wife, right?
Karen Hill.
There you go.
Great movie. But yeah, I could see teams packaging some of their, like the Flyers specifically, looking to be like, all right, you're going to have trouble signing that guy, looking for teams in that position and be like, we'll give you a first-round pick in this year's draft, maybe a player off the Flyers roster, something like that. This is where I think the Flyers will ultimately go or look to go. I don't know if they'll be successful, but I think these are the type of deals, because I still think the restricted free agent thing, like a lot of times it's like suicide. Like if you really want to scare off Minnesota, then you have to give Marco Rossi what, $10 million a year?
Minnesota.
What's the draft capital you're paying, right?
Right, and then you're giving up your first for next year, which you don't know if it's going to be a high pick. Marco Rossi is not going to change your franchise overnight, right?
Well, look at the Rangers with Lafreniere. I mean,
right.
He's an RFA. He's coming off his best season, and then he regressed.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, you're committed to that. You're committed to that. You're buying UFA years.
Yes. It's too big of a risk. I don't think, I do think there's the offense part to the other team, but, like Wyatt Johnson is a guy I'm like, yeah, I would go out and give him
that would be worth
$10 million a year.
Would have been available.
Right? And lose a high pick. But there aren't many guys on this list that are worth doing that.
No, agreed. And that's why I think Yariv, like if you look at the way St. Louis did it, was with lower end players where you're not giving up as much asset wise. So I think if the Flyers are going to do it, you had Friedman mention a guy like Bork, where you're just like, they wouldn't have to maybe give up as much to get a guy like him with what's happening with Dallas.
Or why not just trade for him? Why not?
Yeah, potentially.
Dallas doesn't have first round picks in next 2 years draft. They need first round picks, right? They were going to pick low anyway, right? So that's how I think most teams will handle it. Could we see an RFA offer? Yeah, we could see one, but I don't think it's going to be like all of a sudden the doors are open and everybody's trying to. I think it's a bad idea for a team to do it to begin with. So if you're going to do it, the player who you're doing it for, they have to be like really, really worth it, or the team can't be, like you said about Edmonton, though I would argue they probably should have kept those guys and not signed the veterans that they did this offseason.
Yeah.
That would probably be the case. I think with looking at the UFA market this year, like you're much better off re-signing your RFAs. So even most of the guys on these lists, they're not even going to make it to that time period. So, I think a lot of people get excited at the lists way too early, and you really have to look at them like right before free agency. Otherwise, the list is almost pointless because most of these guys are getting re-signed. So, and if they didn't get re-signed by that time period, then yeah, they're probably available for trade. So why not just trade for them if you're the Flyers? I just can't see the Flyers risking their first round pick next year when a guy like Gavin McKenna's out there and
and you don't know, and if you're looking at the Flyers roster, like there's no guarantee they're going to be anywhere out of this bottom 10, so we'll see what happens, right?
Exactly. That's pretty much my attitude. All right, so let's finish on the draft. We're going to make this quick, and we're not going to go do full detail. Again, we're going to do a full draft preview show. Yeah, later, probably in a month from now, maybe even a little bit more. And yeah, we'll just do top 5 players from this draft. I want to see if your list is different than any of the other lists right now. The list on Tankathon, they have Schaefer at 1, Misa at 2, Martone at 3, Hagens at 4, and Anton Frondel at 5. Flyers currently sit at the 7th pick. For everybody freaking out, remember, everybody below them right now has games in hand on the Flyers, so they still have an opportunity to fall into that, and there's also the lottery drafts behind that. So interesting to see how it'll go, but how do you kind of see your top 5? Maybe let's just do top 7, I guess, play that out since the Flyers are at 7. How do you see this kind of playing out from where you are right now, Steve?
Well, my rankings, I did my rankings in January before Central Scouting released theirs. So I had Schaefer 1, Hagens 2, Frondel 3. I had Martone 4, and then I had Bear 5, Misa 6. And since everything that has gone on, I am not changing that. The only thing is that Bear had the lacerated, like the skate cut injury that ended his season. So I think it's an Achilles tendon too. So that's a concern. But the reasoning behind not changing anything is because each player, one way or another, has had inconsistencies in their season, right? If you look at the top 6 I mentioned, and then the guy after that 7 is Desnoyers. He's probably been the most consistent with the fewest moments or hiccups. I would say Hagens would be second, and then Schaefer third. But Schaefer's hiccups issues are just unfortunate, right? One is mono, the other one is a freaking collarbone injury.
Yeah, it's tough to avoid
so it's not like he should be fine. Like he came back from mono, he was the best defenseman in the OHL. He was the best defenseman at the World Juniors for like the first game and a half until he got hurt. So I am not moving. I'm not budging with any of those guys. The only guy that I'm really concerned with the 2 guys that I'm like the Misa Martone thing, because no one wants to talk about how they've been struggling in periods and spurts. Misa, I did an audit of Misa's assists, and only about 15%, or maybe even closer to 20, were like legit dimes. Like he is a elite goal scorer. He's an elite goal scorer. But that's pretty much, that is his main elite category. He's not an elite defensive forward. He's not elite at faceoffs. He's not an elite passer. And when they got Chernyshov, this Sharks second round pick, who was out of the KHL, and then he showed up as a wing, and he was the puck dominant one. He was driving possession more so than Misa was. So I'm like, what's going on with this kid? No one's talking about it. You know why? They just look at the fact that he was the OHL scoring champion. He deserves it. Listen, OHL scoring champion is a big deal. You're almost guaranteed to be a very good NHL player, potentially like, top 25 scoring every year. So that's fine, but you can't ignore the fact that Misa had, has this, I guess, this issue. And if you watch the first 2 games of the Saginaw Erie series, Themis, the Greek kid, Bono Themis, he's feeding Misa his lunch. It's 2 games in. I don't know. I think they're playing tonight. Erie went into Saginaw and took the first 2 games against Saginaw. And they're defending Memorial Cup champions. They have Perek, they have Misa, they have Chernyshov, they have Epperson. Very good team. But anyway, after the first game, the Chernyshov wrote a note apologizing to his coach for how he played. That's how bad the top line was. So I am not. Like, everyone's like, Misa's a lock at 2. Good luck with that. Hagens deserves to be. He's the most electrifying forward in the class. He's had a point per game as a college freshman. He was a point per game, well over a point per game, I think, at the World Juniors. He was very good at the Summer Showcase. Like, James Hagens never really had like a bad spurt. He just didn't score 70 or 80 points that we thought he would, playing with Leonard and Perot. But he had a very good season. Any coach would tell you it's not easy to be a freshman, walk into the number 1 team in the country, and be their top line center for about 3/4 of the season. So people are just like, well, he didn't score like Will Smith and Celebrini, so he's not first 1 caliber. That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. The only players who had average more points per game were Eichel, Fantilli, Celebrini, and I think Kent Johnson by like a hair of a point. But he outproduced Jonathan Taves. He outproduced Brady Tkachuk. He outproduced Tage Thompson. So Hagens is fine. Frondell had a great second half, better than his first half. He looks healthy. So he set the U18 scoring record for the Allsvenskan. I watched his playoff game yesterday, game 1 of their second round series. And he was very good. I mean, he got into fights or scrums with older guys, had a couple of nice setups. So he appears like to be a legitimate candidate to be the first player at least first forward off the board. And then Martone, you get the power forward. People keep saying, well, he's going to be like a Makachuk because he's very undisciplined and not like, I mean, he loses his cool at the worst times. And he hasn't played well in the first 2 playoff games. And that is against Powell and Oshawa with Brampton. So there's a lot, again, like, I really have no clue how it's going to go on draft day. I know that Schaefer deserves to be the first player off the board because he's been great. He's such a stud. I don't care if you have 10 left defense prospects in your pool and they're all first round picks. He's better than all of them. He is really a special talent. But with the forwards, they'll be good. They're going to go out and have good NHL careers. I think most of them will. The teams will give them long leashes, but there's a lot of it's cloudy.
What do you say? Cloudy. Question marks, right?
I actually love to hear that because where people are complaining. This is why I want.
I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. It's not weak though. It's not weak,
right? No, cloudy,
doesn't make it weak.
Cloudy is very just different.
It's just that you like a team looking for like a finish. They need a finisher. Misa's the best finisher in the class, hands down. No one even can touch him when it comes to finishing. If you're looking for the most elite, complete everything, right? Mr. Everything with speed and physicality and touch and skill, then you probably go with Ethan Bear, right?
Okay.
If you're looking for like the dynamic playmaker, the guy who makes everybody around him better or is going to be the best passer, a power play specialist, you go with Hagens. If you're looking at like the Jonathan Taves leader type, who's like, built in a lab and has the highest IQ, you go with Frondell. I mean, so again, it all, and the same teams are going to be picking up top again. The same teams.
Yeah.
Flyers, Rangers, Bruins, Penguins are new. Rangers, I don't think are going to make it in terms of like top 3-4. But look at it: San Jose, Chicago, Buffalo.
Yeah.
The same thing over and over again. They're going to draft a need. I guarantee you, if they draft a center, the kid ain't going to play because he's got to leapfrog Celebrini and Smith. And
that's fair.
Well, that plays into the Flyers' favor because right now they really just
I think so.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring this up is because, I look at other guys like Jake O'Brien. I didn't even know that much about
He's very good. He's very good.
Right. And I know Roger McQueen's on there. I'm not as sold on him as everybody else.
Injury issue. No.
Yeah. So, like, even Caleb Denoyer and Frondell, we need to walk away with a potential top line center. That is the
need
goal
for the Flyers.
And if they are, and it looks like they could finish at 7. Okay, they got very lucky at 7 last time. I'm not terrified with 7, right? But It sounds like at 7 we can still find our guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to draft. I don't think they're going to draft a defenseman because they'll be reaching.
No.
Yeah.
The Mertka kid is pretty good. The Czech kid who transferred over to Seattle, he's good. But, Jackson Smith and Cameron Reed and Logan Hensler and all those guys, those are mid,
Yeah.
early teens, mid to late first round types. Like that, the forward should dominate the first 15 to 17 picks.
Okay.
Unless teams go for need and they have multiple first round picks and they want to, like Molen Dyke go to Nashville, Bonk going to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You had extra picks. Why not? Give it a shot.
And you look at the Flyers too, center typically seems like where they're at will probably be top of mind. So I'd imagine one of those guys like a Desnoyers or if they could get a Frondell or a Hagens, obviously would be like an ideal. What do you think, Steve? Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about there being tiers to this draft. Do you agree with that? And where do you think that kind of, in terms of the tiers, where do they come in and where do you have them?
Well, the tier for me really cuts off with Misa at 6, right?
Okay.
And Bear, if you watch Carter Bear play, you'll see why. Yeah, Carter Bear is a special talent. It's a terrible injury, and I really hope it doesn't impact anything. But like Martone, these guys are really unique. Once you get outside of that, though, once you go with Desnoyers excels in multiple areas, right? Plays for a very good team. He has bite. You have the winger Victor Eklund, who is I would say pretty close with Misa in terms of finishing ability, but he also has that high speed nonstop motor. Smaller guy, but willing to mix it up and go into the dirty areas. He's part of that group. You got the kid like Lakovic in the WHL. I mean, this kid is a leader. He's the captain of his team. He's the top scorer of his team. He was just named I think he was named like the team humanitarian of the year. He's a great kid. I think his Sasha Lakovic was his dad. I could be mistaken. I apologize if it isn't. But if he isn't, but he's also part of it. You mentioned O'Brien from the OHL, Brantford. The vision is fantastic. So I think the second tier it's going to be like last year, except last year's second tier had a lot of defensemen in it, right? The tier outside of Celebrini and Demidov and, you want to say Salayev, like I thought the tier in the middle was pretty good with Berkeley Catton, Aginla, etc. So I think we have a similar tier like that. The thing is, you're probably not going to see the defense crop this year is
not anywhere near. It sounds like
no.
I mean, it's just that you don't have a lot of defensemen, first year eligible defensemen in prominent roles with the numbers to back it up, right? That you might have guys that are have muted upside, or guys that are excelling, let's say in the defensive zone more so than in the offensive zone. But we are having dynamic. A guy like Bill Zahn in the Quebec League. This kid is one of the hardest working centers you could watch. I mean, he is just nothing but energy. He's the Energizer Bunny for real. I mean, he is, and he's putting up points too. The Quebec League has 3 high scoring. 2 are centers and 1 is a wing. Carbonell's a wing. I think that the Flyers definitely should. I guess add on to the Luchenko pick. Maybe get a different type of center this time.
Yeah.
Frondell would be a different type.
I think Frondell or Hagens would be our dream.
Amazing picks. Yeah, exactly.
But Hagens isn't big. So now you run the risk of having 2 sub 6 foot centers.
Yes. And that is also a problem, is that we need a guy. That's why I was looking at O'Brien, and now the Bear interests me, but obviously with the injury.
He's a wing. He plays like a center, so they could always,
okay.
But he's a wing.
So,
but yeah.
And just a quick update on standings. Buffalo won today, so they're 1 point behind the Flyers with 2 games in hand. Boston lost. They're 2 points behind the Flyers with a game in hand, and Nashville lost again. So it looks to me like the Flyers finish anywhere.
The Blores going off.
But there's a lottery though. You guys are eligible,
right? So it seems like at the lowest they can get 4th overall. And anywhere between 4th and they're tied with the Penguins right now for the I guess 7th spot. So yeah, it looks like anywhere between 4, and the Penguins have a game in hand too. So it looks like the Flyers probably end up drafting 6th, if I had to kind of guess, looking at this list.
I think between 4 and 7 is probably realistic, right? Something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, between 4 and 7. So I think even what you're giving us so far, and again, we'll go in this more in depth, and I do want to talk about it later in the first round too, because that also matters. Um, it seems like the Flyers should be able to find a center, like
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, they drafted a lot last year too.
yes,
So
and they're going to do it again, in my opinion.
yeah, I think they'll do it again. The strength of the
I
draft
think
is
it's
definitely
obvious
forward
what the
ranks.
need is, right? So,
Yeah. Well, we all know we need a number 1 center. Like everybody, like we don't know if Luchenko is going to be that guy. Sean Couturier will be, a third line guy in the future. Noah Cates is great at being a third line center as well. We don't have that number 1 playmaking center, and that's what this team really needs. So defense, we have pieces, but though that'll be a focus too in this draft. It'll be probably a forward and a defense,man
with the
at the
second
very
pick,
least.
I'd imagine.
Yeah, at the very least.
Pick.
Or
Yeah.
two.
I wouldn't
two
draft
centers.
a defenseman with the other first round picks. To be honest with you,
So
You'd
maybe
say forwards better, yeah.
yeah, I would just go forward, straight up. Look, unless it's a power play quarterback, like a pure power play quarterback, there really aren't that many. I mean, really, listen, the pick was freaking Boyum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pick was Boyum. But anyway, no. So like,
he might be available for trade.
yeah, like I think they're not trading Boyum.
They shouldn't, but
they're not going to do. They're going to get 14 million off the cap because of the Parise and Suter poison pills fall off. They are not. Boyum is a Minnesota Wild for life. Just accept it, dude.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm still bitter about it, but I do love Luchenko, so I'm happy about
so
that.
all right. So, but what I'm saying is, though, like, all right. So, they definitely need an elite type of power play quarterback. They've been skipping it. They've been avoiding it. With all due respect to Bonk and the likes, like
it's really Drysdale. That's why they traded for Drysdale for.
Yeah, I know.
And he's been playing much better now.
He was drafted 5 years ago, though. Yeah. So like you need
you need another one. No, you're 100% right.
And so I think that there are definitely types you could find in the late first round. But like the NCDP isn't really going to provide you with one. They don't have that this year. The NCAA ranks, Hensler, maybe you could kind of coach him into that kind of role. He's more like a Ryan McDonough potentially. Like
what about Cameron Reed?
Again, like he's not a pure.
Okay.
He's a good, versatile all around. I'm talking like within the Hudson. Remember Hudson? Both Hudson brothers, second round freaking picks.
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking like that way. Like your job is just to create offense from the back end. And if you draft anyone like that the Swedes have a couple of guys, the Finns, but like Boelius and Handel, the German, there's really not a lot of these elite. Okay. So I think that's why, just my opinion, you go for the draft strength early and then you attack the need later. But I would say, I just go all center, to be honest with you.
Looking at their depth.
I'll be honest with you, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I would look at all the scoring wings you got in the pipeline.
Until I find a center, I would be drafting centers.
Well, that's what they need, right? Like that's their biggest need. It's pretty glaring. It would be how hilarious would it be though if they somehow won the lottery and then end up getting Schaefer? Like
we talked about that.
We're screaming center, but it would be hilarious.
But he'd be the best defenseman probably one of the best defensemen on the team. Probably
he probably would be the best defenseman on the team potentially.
No, so and again, remember you got 7. I think it's as of right now, it's 7 picks right in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
3
exactly.
and 4.
Yeah,
I think, to be honest,
I would take Schaefer in a heartbeat and trade.
Well, of course, so would I if that happened. But I think also something that's on the table that we don't think about is like, let's say the Flyers at 5 or something, or pick 4th. Maybe they really want to move up and get one of these guys. They have so many picks. Who knows if something ends up unfolding there? So who knows? I think Briere has put himself in a spot where he has a lot of ammo. So if he does want to move up, there's potential. So it's going to be a real interesting draft just to see firstly where the Flyers finish, and then if any moves get made in that first round.
Yeah,
so.
This is the first step forward that the Flyers are going to make in several years. They've only removed and added young players, so. This is the first year outside of like getting Michkov or whatever. But this is the first year where you can literally see them, hopefully finding their number one center and then having cap space and then an immense amount of cap space the following year. So
yeah,
we're seeing the beginning of it. All right, let's cut it off right here. We're at 3 hours, at least, of recording. I don't know how long this episode's going to be, but this was
That's
great.
That's a spiel usually.
A typical Steve episode. Yeah. Hold him up for 3 hours, hold him hostage. Yeah, this was a great episode. Anything you want to tell people, Steve? Like, I know you're mostly doing Substack now, so anything you want people to check out?
I mean, no, and I'll just say this though, and I'll tell you why. I'll say this: that NHL draft coverage is the worst of the 4 sports. Okay,
cool.
That all people do is parrot the same narratives.
100%.
Oh, definitely.
Get fed a bunch of nonsense. And I made the conscious decision to ignore as much as I could this year, to keep everything I want private. And the only place you're going to get it is on this podcast and O&B with Isaiah Sheff and Dan Silver. Yep. And that's it. I locked up my Twitter. I locked up my Substack. It's behind a paywall. It's not for money. It's because it blows my mind at the amount of information that goes out there. And in the past, when I put stuff out there, then my stuff was getting copied. So that's why I'm like, you know what? What I'm hearing is some of the nonsense. It's crazy what people are saying publicly about this draft, that it's weak. I did a podcast. I mean, I'll give you a little brief snippet from it, where I was moving Hockey News draft previews from in my office, right? I've got to make room. So I have every single Hockey News draft preview. And in 7 straight draft previews from 1986, the first one, to like whatever it was, in 1992, they started by saying they had scouts quoted as saying this is a weak draft, and then retrospect in the intro to the next year's draft guide, they're like, and last year was a very strong draft. Like, when
the narrative always changes to fit whatever they're trying to sell. Right?
So just like I said, have an open mind. These kids are good. It's not a weak draft. It's just like I said, just that's my soapbox spiel.
No,
because I've enjoyed watching this and following this every day since the summer, and I really like these kids. I think they have flaws, okay, whatever, but just remember that what you're hearing publicly, the rankings, it's all kind of meaningless, and it really is, mine included. I just rank kids based on how my favorite players. That's it.
Well, I think it's really important. And again, that's why Vasili and I did that exercise. You guys can find those episodes like they're 3 months ago, Vasili? 4 months ago?
Yeah, something like that.
We went through every draft over the past 20 years, went through the guys who were drafted at the top till the end of the first round, and then organized the draft by the most successful guys retrospectively. And what was it, Vasili? Only like less than half of the top 20 turned out
to actually be top 10 picks. Yeah.
Yes. And then the rest of it was all guys found throughout the rest of the draft. So it's like people take these rankings so seriously.
It's not always gospel, right? Like,
and it's like what we said. It's like what we said. I think before we started recording, is that they try so hard to be the NFL and the NBA. They don't realize that the NFL and the NBA are drafting for immediate need. Right. So when you see a ranking of 1 to 32, that ranking is specifically for the 32 most ready players available, because the teams are desperate. They know jobs are on the line. That an NFL draft pick, a first round pick, first of all, they get paid more money by what round they're drafted in.
Yeah.
So that hockey tries to copy that by trying to predict how the draft goes. The reality is these kids 5, 6, 7 years down the road, we're not going to know what their true potential is. So I've always treated the draft like a reward for these kids and the work that they do. Nobody else does that. They all treat it like a way to make themselves a brand or to make money or to like whatever. And it's our draft coverages. Some of the things that come out of the mouths of these people that call themselves draft analysts or directors of scouting, it's ridiculous because they're not even watching the damn games. And we see it every year at the draft where the guys are getting picked. They're like, oh, and this guy had 10 goals last year. He's like, yep, he's got good upside. Like, dude, no, you didn't watch him freaking play. There's a lot more to it. So,
it's true. Yeah.
Just remember that when you're tuning into this podcast, freaking subscribe, because this is the only place you're going to get this kind of information.
I love that. Your episodes always do really well.
You're the man, Steve. So thank you.
Okay, awesome. Vasily, anything you want to leave our audience with?
No, just we really, appreciate the support. We've seen our numbers continue to rise and rise. So just everybody, thank you for listening and giving us your ear. And we're going to try to give you, the best content we can, obviously leading into this draft and the free agency and all the summer fun stuff that the Flyers have coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll have you do like a post free agency too, Steve, because that could be a good one because we'll talk about the whole league, not just
that'll be
Flyers.
fun.
Yeah.
I got 2 teenage daughters. I need,
an escape.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening again. Just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for notifications to get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes. Shouts out to our sponsors, Jim Steaks at 4th and South. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Shout out to Public Summit Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment need and help you with your claims from the insurance companies. And also SportsSpider.com. They are our partners. They aggregate sports content from all over the internet. The link for them is in the description. Make sure to check them out. Our stuff is pinned at the top. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Vasily. Thank you again, Steve. This was an awesome episode. We love you all. And remember, always stay gritty.